Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Shaq Power is going to lead us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on behalf of Commissioner Tell, Commissioner Candelaria, and myself, we welcome you here today. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from the past week. Commissioners, have you had the opportunity to review the minutes, and do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I do. Having reviewed the minutes of a proceeding of the Board of County Commissioners of Montezuma County for our July 7th, 2020 meeting, I move they be approved as presented.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the proceedings of the Montezuma County Commissioners for July 7th, 2020 with no corrections or changes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next on the agenda, we're going to go to our planning GIS. We have Doug is here. Come on up, Doug. Is Rachel going to be here as well later? Or? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you're the main man, so come on down.
I do have a public notice to read if you guys want me to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Please
go
do.
ahead, Kim.
So Commissioner Sukla,
Here.
Commissioner Tell,
Present.
Commissioner Candelaria,
Here.
Administrator Powers,
Present.
Attorney McLaren.
Here.
Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining the official 2020 county road map and resolution number 11/2020, which includes but is not limited to determining a system of primary and secondary county roads, reviewing changes to the road system, and specifying a 60-foot right-of-way for all county roads. The hearing will be held Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 at 9 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, County Administrative Building, 109 West Main Street, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. The proposed official road map is on display at the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Commissioners' Hearing Room, number 250, 109 West Main Street, Cortez, Colorado, and is also available for download at http://montezumacounty.org web. Anyone may examine the map and submit comments to the GIS department located at 109 West Main, room 242, Cortez, Colorado, during regular office hours, or by phone at 970-564-4169, or by email at droth@co.montezuma.co.us. Dated this 29th day of June, 2020, Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Cortez Journal, July 1st, 2020, and July 8th, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Purcell. This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody that would like to comment on that, you will have the opportunity to do so later on. But we're going to start off with Doug, which is our GIS.
Is this is on? Okay. Okay. So our last roadmap was adopted on September 18th of 2017. As we prepare to review this 2020 roadmap for approval, as Kim did notice, it was public noticed on July 1st and the 8th in the Cortez Journal, as well as on the county website. And we have the map display in the back of the commissioner's room. That's been on display for the past month now. And what I'm going to do right now is go through the primary map changes one by one for review so everybody knows what, and these are all of the changes that have happened since the last adopted official county road map. So, Shaq, if you'll just bring up, you already have it up. Excellent. We have map change number 1. We have road H.6.37 miles was added, accepted as a county road right away. September 3rd of 2019. It's a chip seal road service, and this was added as part of the Rolling Hill subdivision, added to the county road system. Map change number 2. We have,
Doug?
yes.
Excuse me, just a moment. You said Rolling Hills, is that Wasn't that part of Laverty Estates, or is that outside of Laverty Estates and into a different?
It is Laverty Estates. That subdivision, I believe, was from the 70s, and those were accepted when that subdivision went in.
I think Laverty stops at that cul-de-sac there.
It
That
stops
earthwork.
essentially where we then
That- that
continued
road
Road
across that
H.6
section
across.
there.
Excellent.
Changes the rolling.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
two different subdivisions.
Yep,
Okay,
it's a
gotcha.
separate subdivision over there.
I was
Excellent
thinking of Rolling
question.
Road out here north as,
Oh,
off of County Road L. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, just checking.
And so the map change number 2, Road J, half mile added from
Yay! Yay!
South Sligo
Yay.
Street to Road 27. The right-of-way was acquired from the city of Cortez in October. A portion of that right-of-way was acquired from the city of Cortez in October of 2019. Completed new asphalt road this spring.
That's a beautiful piece of road
Mhm.
down
Yes, it is.
there. Beautiful.
Map change number 3, we have Road K.8. This is a very short section. This Highland Terrace subdivision was platted quite a while ago. These have been county roads, and this portion out to the cul-de-sac was built out because those lots are now being developed, and the developer built those out to what's kind of a minimum county standard, and that was accepted in the county road system. But the right-of-ways were dedicated on that plat originally. And then those were the green road segments that were added. Now we have other map changes. This is the next slide there. This is Trail Canyon Road, and I know the last time when I presented on June 9th, there's a little bit of a discussion. What's a red road? What's an orange road? We know what the green roads are. That's the orange roads typically are roads managed by currently managed by another jurisdiction, is how the legend says it. This road in here was shown as orange on the road maps. It was never picked up on, even though this road does go through quite amount of private property. As we know, the history of Trail Canyon Road is that it was abandoned as a county road back in 1980. And we changed this from orange to red just to reflect that it does go through quite a bit of private property. And we have a comment from the BLM later that James is going to address. You know, this road has a unique history because it was a county road. And so then the BLM came through a few years ago and bought up some of those parcels around it, and now access is a bit limited at this time back in there. But we can address that access issue. I think James has a plan to do that at a later date. But for now, the map changes to change that to a red road, just a normal red road in there on the road map for the time being. Map change number 5, we added 2 routes that we discovered over the past few years that seemed like pretty significant routes, including one leg of BLM road across Canham that accesses state land. Wanted to make sure that was put on the road map.
Doug, can I just, back to the other map?
Yep.
So there's a lot of fires down there. Would there still be access for fire trucks to go on the road to J that's went from orange to red?
That's
Or would James be able to address that later, or?
That's a good question, because where the access is gated at the north end, and I'm not sure if it's gated at the south end.
It is gated at the
Or
south.
it's gated at the south end. So essentially, it's a private road. So when that was abandoned, it was essentially given to the landowners, and I think there was some discussion when it was abandoned that the landowners needed to work access out amongst themselves. So that group of landowners, of which now the BLM is one, controls the access to that road. What that means as far as access to get in there to fight fires, I would hope that they would cooperate.
Typically, if it's an access for fire, they have access to be,
To go
I mean,
to-
they'll gain access.
Yeah, I think they would
And
probably.
they have legal right to gain access.
Okay.
They have multi-keys.
But, right now No, it is a private,
That's kind of a hot spot for lightning strikes. I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but it is.
yeah, good question. Change number 5, two pretty significant roads on Canham that we were just missing from a mapping that we added to the road map as we find those things. Map change number 6, and we're now at adding red road segments to the map for our map changes. This is road S.65 into Anasazi Estates subdivision, 1982. This was a subdivision that was platted. It was actually platted with a dedicated county right-of-way in the subdivision, but the county did not agree to take on that road until it was built to county road specs. Well, it was actually never built to county road specs. Now some of those lots are being sold and developed in there, and we have not accepted it as a green sign road yet. I'm not sure that we ever will, but that was added to the road map. Map change number 7 and 8, 2 red roads. This area north of Road P, we've seen a few subdivisions come through in this area. Due to the number of lots, a number of homes that can be put in out there, we assigned a red road 32.4 and 32.75, and we did install red road signage at those locations and are assigning addresses at those, off of those red roads. Map change number 9, we have another phase of the Warner Homes subdivision, so we extended the current red road G.9 2/10 of a mile to the west. And map change number 10, Rob Englehart's here, but this was his request, was to designate a truck route from the county line south on 16 and then west on Road DD, and add that to the road map. It's nice when those are on the road map so that people know exactly where we're designating.
He kind
truck
of
routes.
explained that last time. that
Yeah.
brought
He
this up.
did, yeah.
I think he's implementing that.
And it keeps them from that intersection all the way down at
Mhm.
491 where it's, again, a 45-degree angle.
Bad entry.
Bad intersection, off a hill.
And map change number 11, the final one, is that we're just have a surface change for what is a red road, W.8. I know Rob Englehart had some personal history with this section of road, in that it's been shown on the road map. This section of road, you go out and you look at it, and it doesn't look like much of a road, and the fences are actually built to either side of this. It's never been shown as a county road, but it has been on the road map since prior to the 1950s. So it's a significant addition. It's kind of one of the reasons why we have roads, why we have even non-green roads on our road map, is because it has a significant history and longevity of this road segment. We did have it on our road map as a gravel road, and to reflect more its surface status, we wanted to change that to a primitive road status, but definitely want to leave that on the road map for posterity's sake. That was just a surface status. And the other portion of the road map hearing, significant portion of the road map hearing here, is that let me find my right piece of paper here. Shaq, can you bring up the road map itself and zoom into the legend? Obviously, I didn't print out that. We can just zoom into the legend itself here.
Well, why don't you keep it
Don't
over
worry,
there?
I'll learn to work a mouse one of these days. Wasn't in the job description.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things wasn't in the job description.
You're gonna have to review that for next
I
time.
think it was, it said other duties as assigned.
Would you like for us to review this after lunch, Jack?
If you don't mind.
Don't add to his troubles, gentlemen. There we go.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's the portion that we're looking at. We did have some pretty significant changes to the legend of the roadmap, and this was partly at the request of Attorney Baxter that we align our roadmap legend to meet more with the state statutes in which it talks about adopting a roadmap, talks about designating a system of primary and secondary roads. And so that's essentially, it's one of the things we're doing with the roadmap legend. So what we're doing is we're making our green signed roads Montezuma County primary and secondary roads. We're saying green sign roads have a 60-foot right-of-way unless otherwise specified. We are saying red roads are public and private roads not currently included in the primary and secondary system. I think I discussed this at the June 9th meeting. One of those examples is that there's a road in the subdivision that has a dedicated easement for the county, but we haven't accepted that into the county road system yet. At next road meeting, if the county wanted to accept that as a green road, they could, and then that would move into the green road category. And then orange roads these are roads through federal or tribal lands. Just the distinction between red is typically on the private land base. And then when we get down to the road surface category, we are defining, as we have in the past, paved, gravel, graded, and primitive roads. Designation for the green sign roads is paved and gravel are primary roads, graded are secondary roads. Secondary roads, for the convenience of people who use this map, usually do not have winter maintenance associated with them. And the county has the discretion to change maintenance levels at any time, and that can happen at the discretion of the road supervisor. And also at the request of Attorney Baxter, we do have a resolution to go with the road map. And I don't know if you would, are you going to read that, Kim, or how does that work? Going through that. If you want to do that before public comments, and then I do have two comments that came in that I will read to you.
That'd be fine, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Resolution number 11-2020, adoption of 2020 county road map. Whereas the Montezuma County, Colorado Board of County Commissioners periodically updates and revises the official county road map pursuant to CRS number 43-2-110, and whereas the last official county road map was adopted in 2017, and notice that the BOCC will adopt the updated official 2020 road map was published in the Cortez Journal for 2 consecutive weeks, and whereas the BOCC finds that the continuing examination by the county's GIS Department, Public Lands Department, staff, and other sources result in recommended updates to the road map. Whereas the BOCC has taken public comment on the road map. Now therefore be it resolved by the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners as follows. The map attached hereto is adopted. as the official 2020 county road map and is to be made available to the public. All county roads have a 60-foot right-of-way unless otherwise specified. The county has discretion to change designations, maintenance levels, and make revisions at any time and will continue to examine the county's right-of-ways. This resolution is hereby adopted this date, 8th of June. Oops. I think we're on not the 8th day of June, but Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. And I can
Change that to July.
I've got it in a Word document, I can change it.
Okay. Doug, why don't you go ahead and give us the written, or the written comments, and then we'll open it up to public comment.
Excellent. Yeah, we had 2 comments. Yesterday morning at about 9 a.m., we had a landowner, Wade Wilson, come into our office. I brought him in to review the maps in the back of the BOCC room here. He's a landowner. He owns land, I believe, on either side of County Road 23 north of Z. So 23 bisects his property. And I showed him that there were no proposed changes to the section of 23 itself. We're not adding, extending, or changing the status of it. He did have a question about the 60-foot right-of-way, and I told him that doesn't mean that we have any proposed development in that 60-foot at this time, and that all that 60-foot right-of-way does is it gives the county ability to maintain the roads, bar ditches, issue utility and driveway permits as such. And also that Road 23 is on a section line, and roads on the section lines, they have the section line easements granted anyway. And also we got an email from Connie Clementson yesterday afternoon. James, would you like to interpret this?
You might have to come up so we can hear it, James, if you would.
I think the BLM noticed that we've got some roads on the map, and some of those roads they have designated as closed, and so they just wanted to be sure that we were not, by putting them on our map, reopening roads to the public. We've handled that just by putting a disclaimer at the bottom of the map that says just because it's shown on a map does not necessarily mean that road is open. You have to check with your local agencies to verify that. So that's how we've handled it, and they're just asking also that we would have a meeting with the BLM sometime in the next couple, 2 or 3 weeks to talk about some of these roads and try to continue to work out access. They are access-oriented, and so that's part of this request also.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any additional comments, Doug or Rachel, on the map? All right, at this time, we will open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up and comment about the proposed road map, if you'd come up to the microphone and state your name and address.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Robert Meyer. I live at 14906 County Road 40.2. It's the Big Pine Lake subdivision on the north shore of Joe Moore Reservoir. It is a red road. We're not asking for any changes to the map. However, that road does access the boat ramp at the state wildlife area for Joe Moore, and it gets a lot of public use. And so I want to back up just a sec and say how much, personally, I appreciate the efforts of the county to improve different roads around the county, such as the County Road 42 up to Transfer Campground for public access. And I think you're all aware that we're seeing a tremendous increase in use of public lands and public resources around the county, which is great for our economy and great for everyone. So County Road 40.2, from the current end of the maintenance at the cattle guard, which designates the beginning of the state wildlife area, is less than 0.2 miles to the boat ramp. And that is seeing significant increase in use. We're seeing, I've lived there 23 years, and it's gone from, just a few fishermen on a daily basis to now we're seeing several horse trailers coming in, people using that as a staging area for the horses.
Did you say it's like 0.2 of a mile?
Yeah, 0.2 miles,
Okay.
yes. It's
Okay.
it's a very small piece of road.
Okay.
Our own road association is handling the maintenance from beyond the boat ramp into the subdivision. There's 15 properties, 14 in the Big Pine Lake subdivision, and a separate property that adjoins ours that uses that for access. I currently do the maintenance. My neighbor Jim Trevino is the head of our road association, which is all voluntary. We have no statutory authority, so we can't levy any way to, get funds. So we're pretty limited in that regard. We have about 80% participation in our little local road association. So what I want to kind of just put out to you guys is kind of a thought that we've put out is that 0.2 miles between the boundary of the state wildlife area and the boat ramp is in the worst repair right now. And I have approached the Division of Wild, or CPW, as they're now called, about making improvements there, and their response is, well, it's in better shape than most of our other access roads, so we're not going to do anything with it. And all I've asked for is, loads of gravel that then we can maintain it with and stuff. So what I'm here today to ask is perhaps we can create a partnership with our little road association, get a little help from the county with some material and maybe a few hours of work with a maintainer to shape that road back up to where we have a crown on it and the public access is improved for that first part of the road. And then as a little road association, we can help with the annual maintenance on that. So it's kind of a one-off deal to where we get a little bit of help from you guys to improve the status of the road for 0.2 miles, and then we can continue to maintain the red road itself in that distance.
How many residents are back there?
We have 15 lots. 15 properties, 14 lots in the subdivision. Of the 14 lots, 11 have either a summer cabin or a year-round residence. Since I've lived there, I was the third person to live year-round at the subdivision. Now we're up to 7 of the residences that are year-round. So we handle the winter maintenance outside of our current maintenance system. That's kind of on your own out there. But, yeah, so that's...
And have you ever approached our road supervisor about upgrading the road?
I haven't approached the road supervisor just from reading the statutes and the requirement for a 60-foot right-of-way. Certainly from the boat ramp into our place, our subdivision, it is essentially a one-lane road that's evolved from a Forest Service 2-track to now we have an all-weather surface to keep people in and out of there. But in difficult winters, we don't even have FedEx and UPS come back there. Garbage service is out at the cattle guard. So, yeah. There used to be, it's kind of a long story. The county was very gracious in that they would bring their maintainer in past the boat ramp, turn around, and head back out. But we had a tenant of a absentee landlord get plowed in by the maintainer one time and called up and complained, and now we no longer have that gracious service. And it's very disappointing because it adds almost a quarter mile to the snow removal, and it's also the part that the public uses in the winter for ice fishing access as well. So if we could get that back, that would be great, but I'm not here to ask for that today.
We have an arrangement that we provide gravel to residential and or subdivision, or in your case, your 0.2 of a mile to that boat ramp. I don't think we do the blading and maintenance, but it sounds to me like it might be a good time to go to CPW and say, you need to, we've got access to gravel to take care of this. You need to come up with a blade for a couple of hours to take care of crowning and blading this road. And I think CPW needs to stand up and take some responsibility in this. That's their asset. That's the public that's using that asset, and that's not really a county issue. That should be a Division of Parks and Wildlife issue. And I would try and hold their feet to the fire on that and say, you know, the county, which I think certainly will provide gravel as long as you haul it, and, you know, that we provide the gravel. You have to arrange for the hauling, but,
Okay.
but I would get right in the lap of CPW and say, you know what, this is your responsibility, and you need to do something with this.
So I have your assurance that if I go to CPW, that we'll have the gravel available to make that improvement?
You have to haul it, but yeah.
Right, I understand that.
That's,
Material.
yeah, the material,
Yeah,
the
we're
road
only
base.
talking 1,000 feet, 2/10 of a mile.
Yeah, we're not, yeah,
1,050 feet.
right. But we've done that with numerous other entities, both private and subdivision-wise, that we will provide gravel to you. You have to haul it.
Right.
And you have to do the blading to get it put in there. But I would hold CPW to it and say, we've got the gravel, we'll get it to you, and you need to come in here find somebody with a blade and make this road passable.
Well, that's great. That's more than I had actually hoped for, so I appreciate that
Yeah.
very much. You know, like I said, there's 15 landowners that pay property taxes back there, so that'd be something that we could really utilize.
Yeah.
So we'll follow up with CPW and see what we can get done, and then I'll need to go through Shack or who?
Shack and through Rob Engelhardt, our road supervisor, the three of you will be able to work out how, when, and where to get that gravel, and where to pick it up, which pit to pick it up from, and go from there. But yeah, I'd get CPW and say it's time for you to pay for a blade. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioners. I
Yeah.
really appreciate, like I said, the work you're doing to improve access to our assets around the county. It's been much appreciated, and this is one of those sites that will benefit
Right.
from that. So
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for your
Thanks
comments.
for coming, yeah. Thanks for coming.
Anybody else would like to make a comment, come on up. Yes, sir, come on up. You're more than welcome to come on up. Just state your name and address again for the record, please.
I'm a little bit hard of hearing, but thank you. My name is Jim Trevino. I live up on 40.2 next to Robert, and I echo what he has to say about what's happening on the road up there. I don't know if any of you have ever been up on 40.2 to Joe Moore Lake or not, but it's if you haven't been, you should go, because you'll see what we're talking about. But my problem is not at 40.2. My problem is you have very, very good roads, highway or County Road 40, and the roads that come off of it are very, very good roads. There's one problem. When you get off of Highway 184 to get on to County Road 40, there's about 75 feet of no man's land there. It's never been maintained by anybody. I think what happened is when the state paved 184, they moved it. And you've got the county road ends over here, and 184 comes around like this, and there's a no man's land between the two. And people drive on there all over the place trying to find a way to get off. Part of it's gravel, part of it's dirt, part of it's got some oddball pavement on it. But it's really, if you haven't been there and looked at it, or if you have, I've talked to a dozen people, and they all have said, oh yeah, I know what that is, but it never seems to bother anybody. But it should be repaired, and it should connect. I don't know whether it's state right of way, I don't know whether it's county right of way, but I really think that it ought to be.
Is it on the big curve?
Pardon?
Is it on the big curve? Where does road?
It's on that big curve. There's a big curve with a mountain up here.
Yeah.
And there's a big curve. You drop off of it onto County Road 40, and there's 75 feet, or maybe 100. I don't know. I never measured it, but it's not a road. It's, I don't know who owns it or who doesn't own it. I don't know what we could do with it. But I do think that we should look at it, and I do think that the county probably will wind up doing whatever is done on it. But
Maybe GIS. Are you guys familiar with this little piece on your on your road mapping?
Yeah, we can get Jack
Okay.
I do know that there are some sections up there where it's not right away, and the county
Okay, what?
does actually own some right of way as that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think it's something that we probably need to look into, and our road supervisor and CDOT and several entities need to take a look at that and make some
Well,
kind of.
I know this has been that way for at least 15 years, because
I
I've
know.
been,
And I'm not
I've been
personally
going up for
familiar
that
I'm not
long.
either. I'm
I'm
not
not
familiar with it. I've never been on
Uh,
it, so
And,
never been
well,
there. So.
I just think the county has done such a great job with the roads. Why this little spot is left out?
Well, we'll look into it, sir.
Thanks for
And,
bringing
uh,
that to our attention. I think it'll be looked into.
Well, I do
Doug,
thank
you have a suggestion?
And, when you really think about it, the county has to have gravel trucks and tractors go over this, and probably has been doing this for 15 years, and nobody's ever done anything.
So it's right there
Thank
on
you
that
for-
corner.
Thank you for letting me get this off my chest.
You betcha.
If you leave maybe your phone number, contact information on the sign-in sheet.
Oh, there
in the
we
back
are.
of the room, we'll get back to you with information we'll look into.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to make any public comment on the proposed 2020 road map, Montezuma County road map? All right, seeing none, we will close the public comment period of this public hearing, and we'll go back to the commissioners for discussion on the adoption of the 2020 roadmap. Commissioners, any discussion?
I don't have anything else at
No,
all, so I think
other
we
than that
should-
County Road 40 that just came up.
Well,
Yeah,
but we
that
can
will
look
take
into
it.
that
I
now
know,
that we know
I
where
got
we're
you.
at, so.
Exactly. Yeah, so I would move that the Board of Montezuma County Commissioners approve resolution number 11-2020, the adoption of the 2020 county road map.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve resolution number 11-2020. It's adoption of the 2020 county road map for Montezuma County. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. We'll do a signing on that. Thank you, Doug and Rachel.
Yeah.
And at this time, we will close this public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you for all the hard work you did, and thank you, gentlemen, for your comments.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, gentlemen.
So I believe we have Doug here. We're just a little bit ahead of schedule, which we always like to be, and our public hearings have to start on time. So I think, didn't you have, Don, a couple of things you'd like to bring up? Why don't you and Jane come up forward and
If we want to sign this, we can go ahead and sign this now. It'll take a couple minutes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If you want to come up here, if you want to.
Let's lay it down there on that table, Doug. What do you say?
And then we'll also have the resolution signed as well. Yeah, we've got the resolution up there. That'll work just fine.
We've got the resolution signed up here.
Hey, you know what? She probably need to go through some.
You'll have to vote on the boundary line.
Okay, all right.
The other one's just for signature.
Gotcha.
Oh. And then there's a blank one here, Kim. I guess that's irrelevant.
You want 3 of them?
No, I think it's only 2.
Okay.
I think she just gave us that. That's 2.
He just missed one.
right, thank you, Doug and Rachel, appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Let's go ahead, we'll get to this unfinished business with the planning and zoning. Don, can you go ahead and let us know what we're doing here?
So one item we've got is on the Garrison Amendment Resolution from last week. There was a directional typo in the legal description, so we've got that changed, so we just need to have that document signed. And then the other item we have is a boundary line adjustment. That's for Copes and Guerin.
I don't,
You didn't put it on there?
No, this is a different one. We're just doing some cleanup from last week, before we have the public hearing here in about 10 minutes or less.
So what we've got is Copes and Guerin have agreed to adding approximately 7+ acres from Guerin to Copes on their boundary line adjustment. Neither one are in a subdivision, so we don't have the subdivision amendment process. So they're just transferring,
7 acres.
I guess it's 10.85 would be the adjusted area, adding 7.58 to Copes's property from the Guerin property.
So it makes his property total of 10-point-something acres.
A little over 10.5 acres. The Guerins have just a hair over 48 acres after the adjustment.
Okay. Now, did we haven't voted or approved that boundary line adjustment, have we?
No,
Don?
you have not.
Do we have
If
any
you want to
adjustment?
see a map, Jane can bring that up real quick,
Okay.
or,
Yeah, just so that the commissioners have something to read off.
To read off of, or look at.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it something that you're gonna get here and put on Elmo, or what, or you getting it
Yeah,
electronically?
she's electronic.
Oh,
I said
okay.
electronic.
Anything else? How, is things picking up and planning, or how's things going?
we're still getting a ton of phone calls, people looking at options, what they can and can't do in the county. A lot of people from out of the county, so they're trying to figure out how we operate, what they can do with property that's available.
Yeah. Looking like to build on or home type of
Right,
building?
yeah,
or-
not much from the business aspect, but
Yeah.
from a lot of property owners, or wanna-be property owners.
Shaq, can you go down to where we've got the names? I think that'll probably help us for one of the commissioners.
There we go.
That look okay to you, commissioners? Are you,
Mhm.
any questions or concerns?
That's the wrong one.
I have none, they're just adding a
That's
simple
folks' witter.
acreage.
Yeah.
We're
Boundary
doing
line,
good.
basically a boundary, just a
Oh, I'm
boundary
sorry.
line. adjustment.
I got the wrong one. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, this is
I say that's on,
south
Here's the
and south,
names. I haven't put that on Elmo.
And 1.1 acres, so we need that.
so, yeah, that's not,
I was gonna say, wait a minute, we had different acreage on
that's
there.
at Road 38 in
We have
Macon.
several boundary line adjustments going on.
All right, we just had a mistake there, no problem. We're gonna go ahead and rectify it. I believe, Shaq, you gonna put it on Elmo?
Monday is continuing.
There we go.
Copes and
So it's Paul and Wendy Copes,
Watkins and
or Paul
Lewis
Copes and Wendy Watkins, gaining property from Lewis and Karen Guerin.
So the correct rating would be just a boundary line adjustment between the two property owners?
Right, and the acreage is 7.5 acres, transferring from Guerin to Copes and Watkins.
Okay, so I would move that we accept the boundary line adjustment for 7.59 acres from Lewis and Karen Guerin to Paul Copes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve a property boundary adjustment on 7.59 acres, more or less, from Lewis and Karen Guerin, transferred from Paul Copes and Wendy Watkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So now at this time, we just need to sign it, correct?
Sign it.
All right,
Yes.
We'll go do that, and then we'll get on to our next public hearing.
Need the document too, don't we?
Yes.
We're still gonna be early.
You want them to sign this too?
Oh, yeah.
Sign it.
Commissioner Tail, myself,
Mhm.
there was one thing.
Oh, did we miss?
Signing the revised Garrison
Remind- revise.
amendment.
Okay.
Take that one.
All right, just hang on, ladies and gentlemen, we just got 3 minutes. We need to start the public hearings on time. So, kind of just got a little hill for 3 minutes and then we'll. How's your family doing, Shaq? You sent something on Facebook about a fire? Everybody doing okay?
So, yeah, where my wife's parents live, there was a wildfire started there. Actually burned down the house across the street from them, then jumped the road north of them, but their house turned out okay last night. But
Is that up in Evergreen?
no, it's in Veo,
Oh, in Veo.
outside of St. George.
Oh,
They've lost a few structures and it's spreading pretty quick.
Wow,
Oh, so it's still going?
Yes,
wow.
but they made it through and so did their house. so.
Oh, that's good.
But their neighbor's house, not as much.
Not so good.
Youch. Thank you for asking. The fire is.
Ian, do you have any lawyer jokes? Okay. I'm sure Shaq does.
So there was, after the tornadoes went through the Midwest, there were a bus full of attorneys that went out to look at the property damage and start making assessments and see what they could get going on. And the bus driver missed an intersection, and all of the attorneys were lost. And a couple of days later, law enforcement came out, and there was an old farmer at the intersection there mending fence where everything had been torn up. And the police officer asked the farmer, "Well, are you going to tell me all these attorneys died?" And the farmer said, "Well, some of them said they weren't dead, but you know how attorneys lie."
Shaq, he always pulls through, doesn't he?
If it's not a good joke, it's a magic trick. He's just
Yes,
right
it
on
is.
cue.
All right, looks like it's time. So Kim, could you read the public notice?
Commissioner Sukla.
Here.
Commissioner Tell.
Present.
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Administrator Powers.
Here.
Attorney McLaren. And Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of an AR 3-9 rezoning request and subdivision application for a proposed single-lot development submitted by Chris Ember Conley on property located at 27991 Road T, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 81.76 acres, more or less, located west of Highway 145 and north of Road T, situated in Section 18, Township 37 North, Range 15 West, NMPM. The hearing will be held Tuesday, July 14, 2020, at 9:50 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the planning office online services at https://montezuma-co.smartcommunity.com public home. You may also contact the planning department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated the 16th day of June 2020. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, July 1st, 2020.
All right, well, thank you, Kim, for that. We'll send it over to Dawn, and I see that Ember is here, so Dawn, can you explain what we have going on here, and then we'll see if Ember has anything to say.
Yeah, Ember, our property's just to the north of Ironwood's operation, and she's wishing to cut off the single lot development at the southeast corner of the property. It's almost divided off from the way the configuration is. So she's just gonna cut off that 3 acres plus or minus, and keep the remaining part of her property. The P&Z Commission voted unanimously to recommend it for approval. One condition was, originally there's an easement that runs up through the middle of that property from County Road T up to the property owners to the north, and they are vacating that easement and moving it to the far west side of the proposed single lot development.
Jack, you have on Dropbox, you have the proposal for the easement change.
All right, well, good morning, Ember. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, been working with Ernie and the Van Vliets, just to be able to move that easement, and Ernie's been able to get us some of the description for that, and so we're ready to move on it.
All right, thank you, Ember. Commissioners, do you have any questions about this proposal?
No, I don't think. Doesn't have, this proposal doesn't have anything to do with the easement, abandoning that easement or anything, that we're just authorizing the 3 whatever acres for the single lot subdivision.
They
Okay.
it just cleans things up to move that easement from right by the house to the far west side of the property.
To
and
the
that
property line, basically.
The part of the confusion is the Van Vliets brought this to the public hearing with P&Z and said that it was a quitclaim deed owning that property, which would have made this whole single lot development null and void, because you couldn't divide that 3 acres in half that way. So we looked into it and found out exactly what the document was, and then Ember got that adjusted with Ernie and worked out with the Van Vliet. So it
So
just
it was
Right.
just an easement
it's
for ingress.
a dedicated easement, not they don't own the property. It wasn't quit claimed. It was part of their deed, but it's just an easement, and now it's just an
just
adjusted
moving it over.
location.
Yeah.
So that clears that up, and everybody's good.
Everybody's good with that? Okay.
Any other discussion, Commissioners?
No.
All right, at this time, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody would like to comment on this proposal, if you'd please come up to the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, we will close this portion of the public comment period on this public hearing, and we will take it back to the Commissioners for a recommendation.
So I would move that we accept the AR 3 through 9 rezoning request and subdivision application for a proposed single lot development submitted by Chris Ember Conley on property located at 27991 Road T, Dolores, Colorado.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve an AR 3-9 rezoning request and subdivision application for a proposed single lot development submitted by Ember Conley on property located at 27991 Road T, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 81.76 acres more or less, located west of Highway 145 and north of Road T. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ember.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
You bet.
At this time, we will close the public hearing. Anything else?
I guess not until Mr. Pope comes up.
Well, we can have Mr. Pope come on up.
Yeah. We don't have to wait.
No. He's probably got things to do as well, so we can get started. Good morning, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Guys want me to just proceed?
Yeah, go ahead.
Proceed.
Interesting to see what that tape measure has to do.
Proceed.
I'm sure that there's a set of
Okay,
deals.
so-
distancing with that or not? I think he thought
It's the- it-
60 feet, not 6 feet.
It is a projectile.
Is that to-
You might introduce yourself, who you are, and
So I'm
For the people.
Rob Pope. I chair the Planning and Zoning Commission. We were asked for recommendations on some items by the commissioners, and we convened after our meeting on Thursday and came up with some recommendations based on some guidelines that were presented to us from you guys. And so I'm just going to go through those real quick and give you our recommendations.
all right?
I'll try to do it kind of in the order that you gave them to us. One of the main ones I heard was setbacks. And I'm going to do the lot size before I do that. So there
Okay.
was a recommendation that we change minimum lot sizes within the county. The current minimum is 3 acres unless you do a general plan development or a cluster housing. Our recommendation is the minimum lot size for residential development should be 1 acre, and that the change in zoning designation should be R1 to 3. We would have to make a zoning change because zoning for 1 acres don't exist. So that would be a designation to R13. On setbacks, and that's the reason I have this
I
here.
figured that's where you was going with that.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion about what setbacks should be and shouldn't be. In my opinion, it's a matter of common sense and working things out with your neighbors, but I understand that regulations provide guidelines. If we're going to change minimum lot sizes to 1 acre, that's going to require some changes in setbacks. I have some 1 acre lots. I know what a 50-foot setback does to a 1 acre lot. It's horrible. So this is our recommendation to you. All setbacks for dwellings on lots 3 acres and larger are to be a minimum of 30 foot from lot lines. Lots smaller than 3 acres, setbacks are to be a minimum of 20 feet. Setbacks for auxiliary buildings shall be a minimum of 15 foot from lot lines. And I'll tell you the
Can you
thought
repeat that?
process.
Can you repeat that last part? I
You
missed it.
bet.
I'm
It's
sorry.
the auxiliary buildings, sheds, barns,
Okay,
15 feet.
anything that's not a dwelling, 15 feet
And the dwelling is 20 feet.
on 1 acre lot.
Right, on 1 acre, still 30 feet for the 3 acre.
So I know all of you guys know how much a foot is. But the reason I brought this in here is because I believe from that wall to that wall is pretty close to 30 foot.
I would agree.
And I'm going to pace it out just quick because I want to see if it really is. And it's arbitrary, but
It's a little
I'm not
bigger,
going to pull a tape.
it's a little over 30 feet.
35
So we're
feet.
about 33 feet, so that's 30 foot. So if you have a neighbor that has a house 30 foot from you, and that's the distance between you and your house, I think that's pretty reasonable. You know, unless you just want to do away with them. The real, I don't think it's a matter of privacy. I think it's a matter of just being a good neighbor and talking to your neighbors. So on 3 acres, if you have 3 acres and for some reason your footprint of your house has to be right next to your neighbor, I think 30 foot's reasonable.
to stay away
And
from.
especially if your neighbor's 30 foot, then you've basically got 60 feet between you and
Correct.
your
That,
other
that
building.
was the other thing I was gonna say. You end up with 60 feet because of the two setbacks.
The county can build a road right between you.
That's correct.
Bingo.
Right up to the line.
That works, baby, that
Here's,
works.
here's my, caveat on these, and I've never liked this, is that the setbacks, according to the land use code, setbacks are to be 50 feet from county road right-of-ways. That's the one I don't like. Somebody wants to put their house right on the road, they should be able to. They shouldn't have to set their house back 50 foot from the road. That's my problem with that.
But if you read that, depends on how you read that. If you read that from the 50 foot from the county right-of-way, if you take the center line of the road should be 30 feet, then you would be 20 feet inside of that would give you your 50 feet from your, if I read.
See, I read it just the opposite.
You read it as from the
See,
end of the county right-of-way.
From the
50
end of
foot
county
from the-
right-of-way.
I read it the same way Rob reads it.
Okay.
And
Because
right,
it says it's 50 feet, which
From the
I
right.
agree, it's too restrictive. I'm not gonna say that anybody would do that, but you don't have the opportunity.
Right.
I mean, I think coming into within maybe 20 feet would be, I don't know what your recommendation is, but why, just like the variance that we did last week, they wanted it as tight as possible so that they could keep that area for their purposes of growing whatever their crops were.
well,
So-
I'll give you two examples.
Go ahead.
Most utilities are on the right-of-way. So when you tell people to get 50 foot back off the right-of-way, you're making them put in a 50-foot driveway, and you're making them put in utilities 50 foot that they don't have to. And if they just want a little tiny front yard and a big backyard, they should be able to do that. The adjacent properties still get the setback, but that setback from the road is not fair to anybody. That's a road. You should be able to drive off the road right into your property if you
Well,
want to.
and I think you're absolutely right, as long as we have a 60-foot county road easement where
And
we've
that-
got room to.
that's where I'm going next,
Right. Where
Commissioner
they've got room
Arnold.
to do snow removal and all that stuff without getting it onto somebody else's property, because there's some of the county roads that we don't have that. We got the fences right up to the dadgum road, and they run into problems of snow removal and blading and graveling and maintaining those roads, because the fences are right up, basically on the shoulders, damn near the shoulders of the road. And so,
So the restrictions on fencing, for new fencing, I grandfather everything else in, but any new fencing shouldn't be in the right-of-way. You need to get it on the border. That's new. There's stuff out there exists, and I don't want everybody to
Sure.
go out there and redo their fencing, but new projects should meet that requirement, 30 foot from center line.
or anytime you rebuild a fence or redo a fence or rebuild like we did that with, well, CDOT made us take over ownership of our fence on 145. They gave us the materials to build it. We had to build it outside of their easement, so.
And I think
And you-
that's
and
fair.
we-
If
I
you
do
give
too.
people notice and they're going through the process, any renovations should meet requirements.
So you're saying put it on the property line, not because,
I didn't say that.
okay.
No, I didn't say
Okay,
that.
so you're
Property
saying-
lines are totally different. In some area, property lines go right into the street.
Right.
That's correct.
They
So
do.
30 foot off a center line. That eliminates all confusion.
And I think it does state that in there, doesn't it?
It,
Right at the
it
beginning?
does. New fences are to be set back a minimum of 30 foot from center line of county roads. But I just want to be careful. The reason I bring it up is it was highlighted on the paperwork that I was given, and I'm justifying it to you, that it needs to be for new construction, not go backwards and try to force people to do it.
Right.
No, yeah, none of this is to make it
To retro
go
stuff.
backward, retroactive on it. It's all new.
So, just to review, setbacks for dwellings on lots 3 acres and larger, and by the way, I'm going to hand this over, they can give you a
That'd be great
copy
if
of
we
it.
could read your.
Are to be a minimum of 30 foot. I think that's reasonable. Lots smaller than 3 acres, 20 foot. That's reasonable. And 15 foot for any and the reason we came up with 15 foot on any auxiliary buildings that aren't as a dwelling is because 15 foot allows you to maintain property. Whether it be fences and weeds and stuff, running equipment through them, you can maintain your property between whatever structure you have and your property line.
Okay.
So that's our recommendations for setbacks and lot sizes.
Good recommendations. Thank you.
You bet.
Planning and Zoning Board.
And the one thing that is not on here, and I don't know, my brain doesn't work too good, is that the setbacks from county roads are 10 feet from the right-of-way. That's not on here.
Okay.
10 feet. You should be able to drive off the road, have enough room for an approach to go onto your property, and have your garage door if you want it. Okay. This is going to be real fun here.
Nobody's going to do 10 feet, but yeah, that's reasonable. Correct, because you have the.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Now, I think this one's going to get some discussion, and this is just our recommendation. This concerns the recommendations you requested for the Dolores River Valley. The Dolores River Valley should be treated no differently than any other area of the county. Engineering and proper construction can accomplish any structure on any slope, and this engineering also exists for sewer systems. This section needs to be eliminated as it affects private property owner rights in an overreaching manner. Also see Section F for sanitary sewer disposal. Here's our opinion on this. The justification for these 10 acres lots was because of 30% slope and 30% building envelope. If you have the funds to engineer your home, you can build it on a cliff. Mm-hmm. If you have the funds to engineer sanitary disposal systems, you can put them on a lake.
Mm-hmm. In fact, yeah, there are on lakes.
So in our opinion, this section needs to be eliminated in every way, and they need to comply to the land use code that exists for everybody else in this county.
And that floodplain will be exactly the same for
That's
them
an
as it will
engineering
be.
issue.
There you go.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that would also take that permit, and then you can build it out of the floodplain.
Sure.
Depending on the height or the elevation that's established with concrete. I mean, we build bridges every day
Yeah, that's right.
across
Right-
rivers.
right in the middle of the floodplain.
Ocean. I mean.
Sometimes
so-
we build them to nowhere.
And sometimes we build them to nowhere.
Years later,
And,
99 million
and sometimes
bucks
we
will
build them
take
to
care
the
of that
future.
I
So-
think Shaq should have a stand-up section.
Oh, yeah, he does.
I think
Every
part of
night
that-
and every morning.
Part of that was that building envelope, that 230 feet restriction.
We're getting there too.
There were a lot of restrictions within that came from that section, correct?
Yeah,
Or
we'll
within
get to that
Dolores
part
River
of
Valley,
it.
so
If I don't own property up there, but if somebody told me you can't do this and you can't do that just because you're in this area, I'd be thoroughly upset. Unless there's real justification for it, and the justification would have to be fact, not speculation from neighbors. And you know what?
We heard a lot of that in the past.
You can do everything you want with engineering and the proper amount of money. And by the way, those are requirements that already exist. If you can't show that it's properly engineered, the geology, the rock structure, what kind of concrete, whatever it is, you can't do it. But man, if you can provide the engineering to show you can do it and do it properly, there should be no restriction than anywhere else in the county. It should be the same rule.
Okay, great advice.
All right, let's go to the two and
Hang
then.
on. One point there is we have no oversight over building plans, engineering.
We certainly do.
We do
over
on the,
septic,
yeah, we do on the
systems.
septic. They're engineered.
Septic, but if you build right in the river, who's to know?
In the land use code, we are supposed to build according to the revised building statutes, I forget what they are.
UBC
We don't have
97.
thank you. We don't have a building inspector, but we do have the right to review construction to make sure it comes up to building codes. And if there's an issue, we do have the right to look at that engineering, say, you're not up to code. Because it is required.
Do you have any comments to that, Don?
I don't know that we have anybody qualified.
Well, I think that the solution to that, if there's an issue, that there should be independent engineering review. And there's lots of engineers around to review it. And by the way, that's in the land use code too.
So that would cover it. I mean,
In my opinion,
it's kind
it
of like
does.
how we do with our roads. We hire engineers to build, we hire bridge engineers to build bridges. We hire road engineers to build roads. So,
Once that engineer puts his stamp on there, he has committed himself legally to that stamp. So when somebody comes in here with stamped engineering plans, somebody has committed their reputation to those plans.
And their license.
That's correct.
And their license.
And liability
And
too.
absolutely, exactly.
So I think there's enough regulation within the framework of our land use code to do this without jumping through a bunch of hoops.
We just need to add the note that stamped engineering drawings are required
There you go. I think that's exactly what.
for the
we do.
Dolores River Valley, and then
Yeah.
that way it's covered.
I don't even know about that. I'll defer to Don, but I don't even know if that's required.
You're not gonna know until something goes wrong.
Well,
And
this
then,
is just
then
for
you're gonna go
discussion
look for the
today.
drawing.
It has to go through public hearing anyway. Has to go through a
But
process.
that's
Not if you
something.
just go build. If you take out the Dolores River Valley special conditions, then somebody just goes builds in the river if they want to, as long as Corps of Engineers, Water Resources, everybody is fine with it. It doesn't go to public hearing. They just go build, just like everywhere else in the county.
well, but to build, they got to get a septic permit.
That's not engineering for a
Right, but
home.
that's got nothing to do
That's
with
two
the
separate-
the
two
dwelling.
separate issues.
Well, I guess this goes back to, you said what ifs at the very start of this.
I said what?
I thought you said what ifs. Maybe you weren't the one that, but, well, I'm going to
I'm
go,
misunderstanding something. What ifs?
what Don is talking about here is, well, what if somebody goes and
Oh,
builds?
gotcha. Okay.
So we were asked, building codes. Well, you need to have building codes because if somebody doesn't build it just right, the roof might fall in on them. So we don't have building codes. I've been a commissioner for 7.5 years, and I have not yet to hear of anybody's roof fall in on them. The only roof that I've actually seen fall in was a commissioner candidate that is a builder, and his barn blew down. So,
Twice. Twice.
okay, I don't know about my husband, but my point is if we always govern on what ifs, nobody's going to be able to do anything.
So the what ifs that I was referring to, and Don is right, there's no review process for plans. So even though we're required under the land use code to build, UBC 97?
UBC 97, which probably ought to be up.
Which is
to
like
at least 15.
that thick, by the way, they're supposed to use it. So if there should be, the only caveat I'd put in here for the Dolores River Valley is if you wanted to, that there be a review process on structures. There is already a review process for septic. So if you wanted to do a review process for building, just to make sure people aren't, I just, you know what, I just don't like being a nanny. And there are people out there that don't have sophistication or skills to review plans and make sure they're not getting in trouble. So if there is special requirements, 30% slopes or above, close to a river, whatever, then that, I don't think I don't have a real issue with some sort of review process to make sure that they need engineered plans. That's my opinion. I didn't ask the rest of the planning and zoning about that. But if there is an issue with it,
Is there a planning and zoning meeting before, because we've already set up the public hearing on these proposed changes?
August
And when is the public hearing on these proposed changes?
August 18th.
Oh, so you would there would be another
Right.
meeting then before?
Yeah, right after it.
The only condition there is we have to public notice it 15 days before. So, and with the once-a-week paper, we're looking at having to publish the notice July 29th, I believe, 28th or 29th. So we may not have 100% of what the public hearing's gonna need to address, but that's if you're looking at more information from P and Z on the 13th.
I know from my position on the P and Z Commission that, well, I'll go over that when I get to the next
Okay.
thing. I don't
All
know
right.
what's going on. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'll speak to it during the next one.
Okay.
The next item.
We had 3 of our commissioners absent last week, so.
Oh, full disclosure, the commissioners at the meeting were myself, Commissioner Haley, and Commissioner Rosso. Haley Saunders, thank you.
And who was the other one?
Commissioner Rosso.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. We could talk about that all day long. Next thing you requested is talk about high-impact permitting. This is our recommendation. High-impact permitting should remain in effect as long as no change of use occurs. This would also include change of ownership and/or dormancy as long as the use remains the same.
And take out the 1 year.
Yeah.
I love that. That should have never been in our land use code.
It doesn't even matter if it changes ownership as long as the change of use doesn't change. And there's no, if somebody owned an auto shop and it closed for 2 years and they wanted to reopen their auto shop, they don't got to go through the process. It's the same use. If they've already been through that process. So that's our recommendation for that.
That's good,
This is something from, this has been an issue for a while. It's come up several times. Notification of adjacent property owners needs to be changed from adjacent property owners to adjoining property owners to avoid further confusion.
That
I've
is
heard
a great
people come in here and
recommendation.
say, hey, we're adjacent, we're a mile from them.
That one
Yeah, it
word
doesn't
makes
work.
a lot of difference
Of course
in
it
how
does.
those things are gonna go.
And this has been a fight, not adjacent, adjoining.
There you go.
Okay, so that
That makes sense.
That one single word we think needs to be changed. Okay. You guys requested fees associated with the subdivisions need to be studied and justified. The P&Z commissions believe the fee structure could be determined by examining annual fixed costs of maintaining the P&Z office and then determining how many and what type of applications move through that office on average in a year. By utilizing this data, a fee structure could be determined so as to support the P&Z department. The majority of fees and costs have to do with road impact fees and payments in lieu of school. Can't do anything about payments in lieu of schools. Colorado revised statute. Just as an aside, you guys can go look at this. We looked at the fees that came into the Planning and Zoning Office as of 2019. Rough numbers are $150,000 went to Road and Bridge and $50,000 went to planning. That's it. $50,000 doesn't even pay their salaries. That's just an aside. The Planning and Zoning Commission believes that any plans or changes to fees should be analyzed and changed within the administrative offices of the county, not our department. We don't have the data. We don't look at it. You guys want to analyze fees and come up with justifications? Good luck. This all being said, the real justification is the benefits that the citizens of the county receive by maintaining a productive P&Z office. And I'll give you an example. I've heard within this room about how much the fairgrounds cost and how the fairgrounds never covers its cost, and that it is for the benefit of the citizens of the county, that they deserve a fairgrounds that gets maintained. Well, that's all well and good. I believe maintaining your P&Z department deserves the same consideration. Everybody benefits from it, just not the applicants coming in. So if you guys want to analyze it, by the way, I'll give you this is one of the cheapest places I have ever been to build. People don't like the road use fees, fine. I hated them. I spent tens of thousands, I think well over 100,000 on road impact fees. I hated it because I don't believe that those funds are lockboxed. I just didn't like it. I think it's an arbitrary fee. I think the county's on to maintain the roads, and keeping good roads is a matter of a developmental and citizenry function that government should supply. But if you guys want to get rid of road impact fees, I think the last house I built in Arizona, between permitting, inspections, and this had nothing to do with development. Just building the home on a developed lot was over $5,000. This county's cheap to come in, and as far as fee structures, we don't have a permitting process, and we don't have inspectors. And to support that, you got to charge people lots of money. Plan review and inspections. So unless you want to go through and start developing a new department, you can't really bash the fees too much. I think the people are going to argue about the road impact fees because that's the huge one. But it's still minimal to anywhere else, you guys. So anyway, we don't want to justify it. If you guys want to justify it, you're going to have to find some metric that we can't find. And if it's purely money, then you need to go through the data that goes into that office, through the administration offices, and figure out what a proper fee schedule is based on the number of permits that go through there that support the planning and zoning office. That's our recommendation. We're not going to fight with road and bridge or application fees or anything. We don't have the data to do it, and I think really we need to maintain the office. Here's what did come up though. We also believe the fee structure could be used to incentivize beautification of properties being developed. This is new development, not old stuff. The things that may be eligible would be privacy fencing, exterior building improvements, landscaping, professional signage, or any improvements that would further beautify the property being developed. Fees could be waived if the developer did the improvements and provided cost documentation in a timely fashion. That means so just for a rough example, somebody wants to build a new development on the highway, a new commercial business. They come in and provide the application. They submit plans and say, hey, we want to doll this place up. Here's what we want to do with landscaping. We want to put in nice privacy fencing in our storage area. You know what? For dollar, if you wanted to incentivize the fee structure, you could eliminate that stuff as long as they documented it, put the plans forward first, then documented it. Then anything new that comes down the pike, business owners are incentivized to make their property beautiful because it's dollar for dollar. They don't put out any more money because the county relieves them of part of their fee structure or all of it, depending on what they do.
I think that's a great idea.
So that's incentivized. That's an incentivized fee structure that any new development, and it's not just commercial, you could do it on the residential side on any major residential developments that they put in nice entryways, You know, they put in chip seal road, whatever. You know, there's reasonable criteria that you could put together, say, you do these things, here's our list. We will dollar for dollar reduce your fees if you do it. They have to submit plans and provide documentation, do the inspection, and then it just gets waived.
So you're talking the road impact fees, instead of paying that fee?
I'm
you
talking
can
about
use it-
any fee.
Or any fee, use it on your property.
Any fee.
Any,
If somebody's gonna make it really pretty and go through the extra effort to do it, they ought to be incentivized to do that. That's our recommendation.
Just like the RV park.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Nice.
And Brandon's Gate's a perfect
Nice.
example of that, too.
Well, they're in the city, so I don't care.
But they come off a county road
They
nonetheless.
do.
I mean,
You're right. And they
yeah.
put in a nice monument and a nice
Sure,
entryway.
they put in a good road and a parkway.
That's a
into
good
it. I mean,
example
that's a
of what it would take to
Sure,
qualify for this stuff.
makes sense.
It does make
So
sense. You
Everybody
know,
benefits.
it's not about getting a,
incentive. Yeah.
well, it's not about the county bringing in these fees of $200,000.
But
It's-
just not to dismiss this totally. Rob was able to take $150,000 out of road impact fees and do a project. Those road impact fees helped our road and bridge do, and I'm sorry, I don't have the place that he expended those funds, if it was on the
Well,
7th
they talked
Street.
about 17,000 for some.
But he took $150,000 out of road impact fees for something, and we'll have to discuss it with him. But that, you know, there's enough money in that sits in that road impact fee fund to help our road and bridge do some road projects that may not be feasible without some of those monies
But-
that are already sitting there. But
I got a counter to Rob Stills, and I want to give an example. And Ironwood, their road impact fee was $52,800, and they hired 75 people.
Yep.
Which those 75 people got to live somewhere. If they're getting paid good enough, they're probably going to build a home. My opinion is so say that the $50,000 is what we said that they bring in. 50 homes, an average, probably the tax of a home is $1,500 a year. I don't know what the average is. 50 homes at times 1,500. If the road impact fee is what caused them not to build, but if they did build, is $60,000 every year forever.
Yeah.
And so Ironwood did go ahead and go through a bit with it, but what if it would have been another company? What if it would have been a company that said, you know what, we're maxed out that $52,800. We're not going to proceed with our development because of the $52,800. So maybe Rob gets this one shot at $52,800, but if that business goes into effect, if he was to think long term, it might add up to $200,000. I don't know.
I don't argue that on a commercial basis. I think
Well,
you can justify that on a commercial.
What they're recommending, that would eliminate that anyway,
Right.
because it is the same use. It was just not there for
Right.
that 1 year period
Sure,
of
that
time.
1 year
kicks it
period
out.
will
So
take
that
care of
would have
that.
even been
But I'm
applicable.
talking subdivision. I think your road impact fees come out of a subdivision. Say, you know, like Laverty Estates or your subdivision, Rob, where the developer goes in and takes a piece of agricultural land, turns it into residential real estate, makes 40 or 50 residential lots out of that. Though, to me, there's justification for that developer to pay some road impact fees, because you're gonna start putting 50 or 60 families in that subdivision that are gonna come out of that subdivision and go down a county road or wherever to a highway, that's going to impact that road and the usage and the number of vehicle trips per day on that piece of roadway. And granted, you're gonna get more property tax, but I guess you look at it at the property tax that's gonna be generated off that subdivision when all the homes are built in there, and you absorb it that way. You take that property tax.
So
and
are you saying
make it-
to incentivize them, so what Commissioner Tell is talking about, a subdivision of 40 homes? You're saying incentivize that portion of that property instead of paying impact fees?
Incentivize it, say you do,
Incentivize
instead of
with-
paying,
You
instead of
guys
paying.
are getting down into the minutia that we didn't get down into.
Okay,
We
but-
said fees.
But you're saying fees
It'll
and take,
come
if
up.
you can show us where you're gonna enhance the appearance of your land, your property, your development, to a certain degree that we deem responsible and
Have the
worthy.
criteria set forward before, so there is real criteria.
Sure.
Gotcha.
And I really like this idea because it's transferring. In the end, again, my thoughts are that you're going to increase the taxes to the road department because you're going to build these homes. My deal is a perfect example, and one of the reasons I became a commissioner, I was so mad at the planning and zoning board. You guys weren't there. This is a long time ago, but I owned some property on right off the Highway 491, and I wanted to build a home. By the time I can't remember what it was, $4 or $5 grand to put it in. To do the road use fee, which is a piece of property that I've actually owned for over 10 years at the time. And they said, because I had to put the home in, but they said if you're driving a tractor in there, and I drive my pickup in there every day to irrigate, so there wasn't going to be any more road use. However, I had to pay this arbitrary $2,500 as long as it's if I built the home. If I didn't build the home, which I did not build the home because I said, well, I'd better go buy another home and not have to pay the $2,500 that's already existing and built. What that did right there was I would have built a home that would have been worth $1,500 a year in taxes, and I didn't do it. How many other people are like me? How many other people?
Well, I can answer that. You
Okay.
said how many people are like me. So, Point 3 by the Maverick, past Goods for the Woods. That was the road that I developed Hartman Heights on. Over $50,000 worth of road impact fees. And on top of that, they said, you have to engineer and bring that road up to county specs. It's a green side road. I paid $95,000 on top of that just to bring that road up to spec. That's not fair. When a property owner comes in and pays taxes on their home, I have never seen a road impact fee in my life until I came here. And I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but my opinion is if you're a property owner and you pay taxes on your property, that should include the county maintaining your road for you. That's my opinion. It just doesn't make sense to me. If it's I just really, that was hard to swallow. And by the way, the same thing didn't happen up on L, but the road impact fees were so brutal. Between the PUD and Crestview, I paid over $100,000 on impact fees. I guarantee you that's not lockbox somewhere. And so I have a problem with it. If you pay tax, and I understand Rob's position too. He wants to maintain roads, and he needs money to do that.
So actually, I don't disagree about how brutal they may or may not be, but we do lockbox them, and when we move road impact fees, we show what they get used on and who paid the road impact fees, and we keep a 5-mile overlay. So that money is
See my name in there?
lockboxed.
I'd like to see what roads got paid to my driveway.
We could absolutely
I'd
go
like
back
to
and
see
look at
every
that. What
penny
year
of
was
So,
that?
Shaq, I think that you might not be quite right. And the reason I know that is because Commissioner Tell and I have been here longer, because when we first came here, when we found out about this, is actually just kind of blindsided us. There was over $600 and some $1,000 in the road impact fund that had not been touched in years.
Because it was lockboxed?
No.
It was a lockbox. That is what I'm trying to tell you. When we found out about we had all this money sitting in there, we had a previous road supervisor that apparently wasn't aware. I don't want to go into those.
We don't know why, but they had just been accruing. Instead of taking that money, which I think Rob has started to do, you've got a 5-mile radius around those property owners that have paid into that road impact fee, that those funds can be used within the 5-mile radius of wherever those impact fees were garnered. And
That doesn't cut any ice with me at all.
Well,
I paid for it on L.
Yeah.
Why isn't it on L?
Well, just
That's
ask
what they said to me.
ask the Forest Service why they don't take the knockoff gravel money on the Forest Service roads and put them back on.
Yeah,
the
but I don't want to compare us to
Bad
them. I don't
actions.
think we should be acting.
You can't justify bad actions with another bad action.
No, you're
No,
exactly
but
right, and you're right. and Shaq, I'm sorry, but I don't feel like that he is going to be able to justify, if on Road L, how much was the total that you paid? If you
I'd have to
remember?
go back and look, but I think it was on Crestview, it was 40-something, and on the PD, it was 40-something also, because it was about the same number. It's 13 lots and 11 lots, so you can do the math.
So I don't think there's a lot box that we could go to Rob and say, was there 80 grand? Is that what you're talking about? 80,000? You said 40.
Close, it was just under 100
And I know where
somewhere.
your subdivision is, I know where Highway 491 is, and I guarantee you, there's no way, I've been on that road, there's no way that there's been $80,000 from his subdivision to Highway 491. There is no way.
The one thing that Rob did that I did appreciate it is he recapped K.3 once. I don't know how much it cost him to do it, but he did go in there and doll it up again one more time. But I don't know, I mean, I spent $90,000 just to bring it up to county road specs on my dime.
And so
That
we're
was
actually bringing up a
unfair.
very good subject here, because Mr. Backstrom, that owns the subdivision behind the sale barn,
Right.
he paid 60-some thousand, and every time I meet that man,
Oh,
he's
he's
like,
mad.
where is my $60,000?
He's called me several.
And he's actually maybe close to the same distance that you are from 491 on Road M, and we cannot justify the 60 grand that he put in road use fees from that section to the road. We can't. There's where we lie, where we've got to fix this. We have got to fix this.
Guys, I don't know how to do it, and I don't think we're going to do it here, but I got a little bit more left.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know how much
Go ahead.
time we have.
It's a very interesting conversation.
You're
Yeah,
fine.
it is.
Am I okay?
You got time.
I just want to get through it all.
Go ahead.
before-
Yeah.
Now, I want to clarify, these last three items are from Rob Pope, not from the planning commissioners. These are issues that I've had developing in this county. The weed control plans. No one wants weeds, and developers want attractive properties. The weed management department is needed for education and providing expertise to all private landowners. It is a bureaucratic hurdle. The inspection and the disposition of a weed management plan, from what I've seen, does nothing. Zero. There's no benefit to the landowner, there's no benefit to anybody in the county, and it is a bureaucratic hurdle that I think needs to be done away with. We shouldn't have to have the weed control manager sign off on a plat. I think it's ridiculous, my opinion. And no offense to the weed management people, it's just in the land use.
Well, this would be a comparison to when we had to have Firewise.
I'm getting there.
Okay, go ahead.
That's the fire mitigation plan.
Wildfire mitigation. Wildfire adaptive should provide education. Fire mitigation is a common sense activity, and when expertise is needed, there are plenty of resource. I'll give you an example. When I did Hartman Heights, they wanted me to go, if a treetop was at 15 foot within another treetop, they wanted me to cut a tree down. I was mad. When I went in there, so what I would have went in there did with heavy equipment, tearing the whole place up.
And causing weeds.
Oh, I did. Huge. Just doing what I did, clearing out the debris. It was ridiculous. And I can't remember the gentleman's name that provided the plan for it. He goes, Rob, I know this is all stupid. You just don't go in and cut down a bunch of live trees. And I says, that's what you're asking me to do. And I went in there and ran over stuff and tore stuff up. What I did is went in and cleared out. And by the way, I got a bid for that. That was a $55,000 project. I went in there with a crew and myself and a skid steer, and we did it between $5,000 and $6,000. Having the defensible space around your home and the proper roofing structures and cleaning up your yards is common sense. That should be between you and your insurance company. If your insurance company doesn't want to insure you because you don't have defensible space around your home, that's your problem. It's a common sense thing. This is another bureaucrat. But by the way, they come in and they say, well, we looked at your here's their investigation. We looked at your property on the aerial view on GPS, and we think these 8 trees made you know what? We don't need that kind of sloppy reports. You know what? If you can't drive out there and do a proper inspection, don't submit a report that you've viewed on GIS aerial photos. It is so the septics. Remember I was so mad about the septics because it is the people who do the septic inspections are the one that were going to come in and do the remediation. So they're incentivized to fail stuff. They're incentivized to find something wrong because they're the only guys certified to come in and fix it. This is what I found with this stuff too. You know what? We provide your fire management plan, and by the way, here's what you need to do, and here we're going to come do it, and it's going to cost you this much. I'm really upset about how fire mitigation is handled in this county, and I do not believe that it should be a sign-off on a subdivision application. My opinion.
So actually, but before you go on, the Regulation 43, the septic, I think you have personal information or personal experience or know of somebody where on Regulation 43 was we would tie up your property taxes, your property deed.
The sale of your property.
To sell your property until the septic system had been inspected.
Yes, I was here for those hearings, yeah.
And you said that there was a case in Arizona, I think.
It was. They were.
Can you explain this?
So they were doing inspections for septic systems, and if they failed, they were the only ones certified to come in and fix them. So they were incentivized to fail people, and it ended up going to court, and those guys got. It just was. It
was a system for corruption because you're going to go and say, oh, you got to have 10 grand work on that septic system. Oh, you got to have 20,000 on that. And they're the ones that benefit from failing it.
They inspected and they also provided the remediation. I find it's not as bad as a correlation, but by the way, I just get tired of government entities being nannies over people's public property. You know what? Nobody likes weeds. Somebody's too lazy to clean up their weeds on their property. They live with it anyway. There's not some weed Nazi going around getting after them.
Well,
but
that's where I'm going to take issue with you on that, Rob. You said it exactly a mouthful. You got people that own property that are too trifling to take care of their property and let the weeds and whatever else grow there that adversely affects their neighbor through no cause by that neighbor. And I think that weed department with their right of entry and to go in and treat the noxious weed problem is absolutely.
I didn't argue that. I argued it being part of a subdivision inspection and signing off on a plat.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same difference. They're
If
taking
it's the
that
same difference, then it shouldn't exist.
They're taking that same property and then making the developer make sure that he's not permitting noxious weeds to be an effective neighbor or affect other neighbors in and around his subdivision. Is that not it?
Okay, then
No, but he
let
actually
me
made
put
a
it.
good point.
Let-
It's double jeopardy.
Let me put it in a different way. Okay, so the developer comes in, and there's been piles of noxious weeds forever. How come the weed department didn't take care of it before he got there?
Well, that's which came first, the chicken or the egg. Doesn't make any difference. I think the noxious weed situation in this county is absolutely horrendous, and I think everything that we're doing through that weed department, especially in the Class A noxious weed realm, is beneficial to everybody in this county, whether you believe in that or not. I disagree with you.
Oh, I think it's beneficial.
And I'm going to have to agree with you because I can tell you the noxious weed lady told me how I should graze cattle. Well, let me tell you something. That lady, I don't know how many cows she's owned, but I've owned those things since day one. That's 55 years and counting. And I don't think she has the expertise to tell me how I should graze my pastures or how somebody else should graze their pastures. So she's going a little over her authority, and I'm going to have to agree with you on this. The chicken and the egg should not apply here. There was either weeds there when you bought that property and you're fixing development,
Right.
or there wasn't.
Right.
And after you buy the property is when Bonnie should be stepping in. It shouldn't be Bonnie telling you, have to sign off on the weeds before you.
That's my only argument.
That's it. I mean,
That's what my only argument. I'm not arguing
there. I mean,
that the weed department shouldn't go out and do weed control and pressure people to take care of weeds. What I'm disagreeing in is
You're
that it's
just-
part of the land use code to develop.
yeah,
And a sign off on the plat.
And to
That's-
sign
that's
off on
all
the
you're saying.
plat.
yeah.
And
I
the
agree
same
with
with
that.
wildfire
And
mitigation.
the same with the wildfire. So
Both of them are very,
those
to
are
pay for those
two
studies.
sign-offs that you wouldn't have to do is what you're saying if those
Yeah.
two were eliminated. And
But
I don't know
anyway,
what the third one is.
we kind of got off into the weeds.
No, but it makes a good point, because what we're trying to do here is we're in trouble in this country, and the more regulations you got that are unnecessary, the more burdens you put on, and the less successful we're going to be in the future, because we better be doing everything we can to incentivize those people to do the things here, because all these other counties are doing just the opposite, and in the long term, we're going to see the ramifications of those things.
So the recommendation is to eliminate plat sign-off for noxious weed control mitigation and wildfire mitigation from those departments. They're horrible, they're expensive, and I see no benefit to them within this county.
So
Anyway.
that was the three, Rob?
Yeah, there's
Eliminate-
one more.
Oh,
In the land use code, when you do a development, there's a requirement that you install a driveway. When you're a developer, you're not building the home.
So what-
I
know what you're
fought
talking about
this.
issue before.
I fought this because I had, I don't know how many lots, 19? They wanted me to put a driveway with culvert on every one of them, and we don't even have home sites on them. On a 3-acre lot, there's a lot of places you can put a home that the driveway doesn't do it. And my argument was, I've paid for the permits, the driveway permits, I paid for them, but I shouldn't have to install them until a homeowner goes in. Now, there's one problem with it, and I don't know if Doug's here. It's an addressing problem. They like to GPS the driveway so they can put a proper address on it. But when a home gets built on it, they have to do it anyway. So I think setting out there with a to-be-determined address is no big deal. But that's one of the things that doesn't happen automatically, is they don't go GPS the driveway. And the other reason is, and I heard this, I think it was from Rob, I don't think it was Dean. He says when they do snow removal, those culverts and driveways out there, their snow machines hook them and pull them. And I've seen it. He says when there's no home on them and they sit there forever, they become a problem for the road department too. Because their snow equipment hooks the end of them and pulls them.
Well, it only makes common sense that if I purchase the land and I want to decide where I want to build, that's when you would determine where the driveway goes then.
Yeah. If you've already paid for the permit, if the developer's already paid for the
It's
driveway
not a money
permit,
issue.
yeah, it's not an issue at all.
then you determine that when the person comes in to build their home where they want their driveway
Because
located.
it could be
that
years before a home is built.
Yeah, I think you guys remember
makes sense.
Miss Carver holding my feet over in the fire and me getting pretty upset when she canceled my county commissioner meeting over this issue.
Who did? Oh, Susan Carver, yeah.
I was
That was a
mad.
long time ago,
I
Rob.
got called down. Anyway, guys, that finishes what I have. I will leave this here. I didn't make copies. Oh, that's right, my circle. Where is it?
Oh, the two.
Oh, it is in here. I just didn't read it. The 230-foot diameter rule should be eliminated. If a home can meet setback regulations on the lot, it should not be allowed. If you meet setback regulations on your home, the
Build it wherever you
only
want.
thing that people get mad about is these cigar-shaped lots and the skinny ones that are 5 times longer than they are wide. I don't have an answer to that. If somebody's foolish enough to do it, let them do it. I've seen them around, but that 230 foot, there's two things wrong with it. First of all, it's not a home site anyway. They call it, what's
A
the
building
language?
envelope.
Building envelope.
A building envelope.
Envelope,
You don't have to build in that envelope. You build within the setbacks. So the only real reason for that 230 foot was to eliminate these really skinny lots on 3-acre lots. You get into bigger stuff and it doesn't even do that. But on 3-acre lots, it does a pretty good job of it. But it needs to be eliminated. If you're within your setbacks, you're within your setbacks.
Well, if we go to a 1 acre minimum lot size, it's not gonna work anyway. It really won't work in a
That's
1
all
acre.
that fits. It'd have to be a square.
Square.
Can I borrow your pen?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
'Cause
ride on
that's
this,
what-
you
That's
guys.
what 1 acre encompasses this circle.
230 feet.
Well, if you don't have a copy of that, we can get one copy. Yeah,
We can
scan it
just
so
scan
that
and
you,
send it to us.
it's very
Setbacks
good.
are a minimum of 15
We're gonna have a lot
foot.
of interesting discussion.
And
It's gonna be
then,
some good public hearing stuff
yeah,
too. I
yeah,
think
it
this is good, I think this is good fodder. I mean, it's good stuff.
And that's,
And I
that
like
fire mitigation issue is something that, I mean, we've dealt with for the sake that we don't make people, the letter of the law of the land use code says that mitigation will be completed before we bring it to you guys for signing of the Mylar. But half our properties are acres and acres and acres of forest. You don't know who's gonna build and where they're gonna build or if they're gonna build. So you can't go in and mitigate 60 acres of forest for no reason.
Boy, they sure try.
Correct.
Well-
And I think what you're saying is
It
just
was
the
awful.
defensible space.
We apply that
around.
differently. I don't know what previous,
Correct,
Is
but you
this-
can't build defensible space before you have the house.
you have to have the
Correct.
house and the
That's what I mean.
driveway to do
To
the
figure
it to me.
implementations.
They
Yeah,
did it to me.
I wasn't here.
No,
But-
you wasn't.
And what my
I wasn't
question
here.
is,
try to use
is this
common sense.
Firewise and Fire Adaptive, is that a government entity?
I don't know.
I think they're government funded, but I don't think
No,
they're a
government entity.
No, I don't
What
believe
gives
so.
them the right to regulate that?
You guys do donate to them.
Yeah.
I don't think we did this year, did we?
They asked for more
We've
and
cut-
you
Well,
gave them
they started, it
less.
used to be 38,000. I thought it was zero this year.
Needs to be
I
zero.
think we said 75.
I think they were at 15 and they asked for more and you cut it down to 7,000 or 7,500.
Okay,
That's a
well,
couple
you're-
years
So I mean,
ago.
you do contribute, but I mean, they do a lot of education and pamphlets and brochures and classes, but
well, my opinion, so I've got a strong opinion about this because I live in a place that if my subdivision catches on fire, I'm probably gonna get burned up. But as far as this town burning up, we aren't Paradise, California. This county is not gonna burn up. Our municipalities aren't gonna burn up. Some subdivisions might burn up, but
Right.
I choose to live where I live. And usually those organizations have somebody that has just graduated college, doesn't own a piece of property, and doesn't have the knowledge to give you the right recommendations on which tree to cut and which tree not to cut, in my opinion.
Remember when you guys eliminated the plat signing by CenturyLink for phone? I think you guys ought to do that for both of these. Anyway, that concludes my presentation. I'll leave this.
You get the rest of your commission on your last three, or have they discussed the last three items you brought? Those were just yours, I think, weren't they,
Oh,
Rob?
no, that's just me. It says further items here. Let me write down. That'll be real clear.
I've got
Rob's personal,
Rob's personal
These are rocks.
peeves.
Yeah.
See that?
Pet peeves, yeah.
one thing on the fire mitigation, and I ran this by Jim Spratland Friday. I don't know where and how it fits in with FEMA as far as what the county is doing for fire mitigation. I don't know that it's that detailed, but it's something that he probably needs to figure out from that perspective.
Might be worth him looking at.
For
that, yeah.
FEMA, so that we might be out of compliance.
One,
with
I know,
Yeah.
part of, and a lot of it's wildfire mitigation as far as what you do if you have a fire, I don't know. But some of these subdivisions that are in nothing but woods, there could be an issue from that perspective. I don't know. That's above me. But that's
Be
something to
worth
keep
asking
in
him to
mind.
check into that.
And I think a lot of that, when we actually hold the public hearing, that stuff should all come out. But there are a lot of subdivisions throughout the state of Colorado that are in, I mean, Colorado Springs has 2/3 of that city
Black
is
Forest.
in the,
Black
is in the
Forest, yeah.
pines on both sides of that highway.
Mhm.
Commissioners, you should probably ignore all my pet peeves and prioritize the stuff. Because if you guys want to get some of this stuff done, you know, you've been asking for these recommendations for a while, and I pushed to get them. So if you want any of this stuff to happen, you don't have very long. So I would suggest prioritizing what you really think is important and get it done. And if this other stuff is so peripheral, it shouldn't, I wouldn't put it in the mix with the stuff you think's important.
Good recommendation.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for putting so much time and
Yeah,
energy,
thank-
you and the
thank-
planning and zoning
Commission,
board.
Thanks for getting back to us.
Let me
Yeah.
know what
Thank
we
you,
can
Rob.
do.
Okay,
Thanks, Rob.
okay, let's go
So,
to,
just one more
go ahead,
comment. You kind of alluded to the fact that there will be another P and Z meeting prior to the August 18th public hearing. Are you looking for more information, something else for them to review? In order to meet the 15-day public notice deadline, we have to have the public notice to the paper by 10 a.m. July 28th.
I don't, I mean, that was kind of collectively when we looked at it and we were writing notes down. I wrote notes down for probably 3 or 4 weeks. Those were kind of the burning issues
I think
that,
keep it
that
simple,
we
yeah.
felt, to keep it as simple as
Yeah.
possible, but and we will prioritize those.
but there is something that we can add that's really simple, and that is we have a moratorium on Regulation 43. And if we was to just do away with Regulation 43, then we wouldn't have to worry about the moratorium.
I think Regulation 43.
That's
so if I
outside the
understand
land
this
use
right,
code.
That's,
That might be a dead issue anyway.
I think it is, because Regulation 43 is a Colorado revised statute.
that's
What you're
Colorado
talking
revised.
about is the inspections under Regulation 43.
43.
That's where the moratorium sits.
And-
Regulation 43 is
and
a
we- And we have
statute.
the choice to opt in or opt out of that.
Correct.
We were not
And right
bound
now,
to that.
it's,
We opt-
it's
and we've
basically opted out.
Yeah.
You guys have, I was here at that meeting. I
Yeah.
didn't hear you guys opt out.
We did
Well,
not.
that's why we
It was
put-
a 6-month moratorium.
That's correct. We did not opt out. And what we did is we approved it, and then we put a moratorium on it.
Yeah, because we
What
started
I'm
out
talking
approving.
about is undoing it.
Yeah, you guys need to opt out.
Well, we can look at that, because I did
Sure.
follow up with John to
I
see if
wasn't
we
here.
needed to opt out.
Yeah.
I have an email asking that question.
Tapping out.
That moratorium
Me
was
too.
what was put into place. We read that thing. You can opt out of it, but at the time you guys did that, you put a 6-month moratorium on it, which I think's expired.
I'm sure it has.
It would have
I'm
been.
sure it
So
has.
really needs to be opt out. But, you know, what has been through the Planning and Zoning Commission that we've all talked about is this first section right here is what you guys put in front of us.
Right.
So his concern is getting the public notification done. I think you guys need to probably move on this meeting and say, do it so he can.
Well, we told him last meeting to do that. So,
It's set, but when we do the public notice,
It has to
I've
have
got to
the name
put
specific.
list.
the information that you actually want in writing stated
Okay.
on our portal, so the public can go in there, read that packet, and see what all the items are.
so let's do this right now.
You might want to read that.
You may want
I
to,
think,
yeah, we're gonna need exact wording and,
I will scan this and send it to,
and then we can
Okay.
reply.
Okay,
and
all
then
right.
reply to me.
yeah. I'm just letting you know that we really don't have
Do we have,
time.
if we take action next week, does that give us enough time?
Oh,
to
yeah.
get the
As long as you don't send it back to P and Z again for more input, more information,
All
or
right, let's-
or defining
Once-
different
once
Commissioners
statements.
to-
Yeah,
Once it
because I
goes to
think
public
we,
notice in the newspaper, that's it. No
it's
more.
just those items can be discussed
Okay,
or
All right.
or changed.
Or acted upon.
Yeah, but
We'll
we,
take-
but we need those listed and detailed out, so that's what the public's reading.
okay, all right.
So once I scan this to you and you read it over, you send me exact items. So that I
Okay.
can put it in the newspaper.
All right, thank you. We better move on. It's been very interesting.
I would just kill
Well,
an
it's an
hour.
extremely important discussion. Public comment, if anybody would like to comment to the commissioners, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
I missed that.
Seeing none, we'll go to IT. Jim McLean.
These guys are sitting way back there in the back row. Are you guys? Don't give me this social distancing baloney.
Morning, Commissioners. I don't really have a
Morning.
whole lot. It hasn't, we just, you know how we are, we stay busy.
Well, that's,
Our internet connectivity between the landfill, our
Done.
tower, everything's
Done.
done. We're all hooked up and going, towers in and everything. Good. Good to hear
Done.
that. Glad to hear that.
We have 500 megs at the landfill and 500 megs at the fairground.
Sweet, good.
No.
Is that true, Shane? Sure. All right.
Doesn't know.
I don't believe we have anything. Thank you for your report. Sorry to have you in here.
No,
for so-
that's all right.
Hey, and thank you for putting on the performance for July. I'm sorry the audience wasn't any bigger than it
Yeah.
was, but
You know, it was
first
maybe
things-
100 people.
first things are always tough
But
to get
things
going.
take time to build if you decide, and I may go on and do it again, you know, but if I do it again, I'll get sponsors and get a
Sure.
beer garden and the whole thing. But I think all in all, it went over pretty well. He was a big help.
Yeah. Shaq was?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good.
Don't tell anyone.
All right, all right.
It was a long day.
I'll bet it was. A long, hot day, huh?
Yeah, I was there for about 14 hours, so
Oh,
it was a long day.
You know, after everything that we went through in the last 3 months, I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, the
It's-
people
we got-
seem to enjoy
We've
it.
got to start somewhere.
Start doing things, that's right. We
Yeah.
gotta
That's-
start
I agree.
doing some things, yeah.
So,
People
yeah,
are going
all in
stir
all,
crazy.
I'm glad you guys approved of that, and
Yeah.
I think we'll do it again.
The
All right.
the only other thing I have to say is thank you again for this iPad, because it is getting wore out on Zoom and GoTo.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you. It's all we do.
yeah, I'm thinking maybe something different than the iPads. I think Surfaces are the way to go.
It's
I think
it's
they'll
working.
work better because they're Windows-based, and everything we do is Windows-based, and I think we'll have a lot more.
We'll make that decision January.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wait and do that.
When you re-equip the new
After you
commissioners.
guys
yeah.
gentlemen are gone, I'll
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
There you go, there you go.
Thank you for your update, Jim.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jim.
all you do. We have county vehicle maintenance. Shane, you have 1 minute less than that presentation. Just joking. Just joking. That was
waited a lot of hours for this. I'm going to take some time.
just
There you
joking.
go. Give us a report.
I need to put, let's see if Shaq can put a couple of things up. We need to get these last couple of vehicles fit in the budget this year ordered because they're threatening to not even be able to get them here this year
Oh, yeah.
at this point.
There's 6 months out.
Yeah.
5 months
Well,
out.
some of them are, they won't even do this year's cars. It's really hard to get them to bid this year's cars because they're so far
So
out.
they're just
because
not
of-
building them.
Yeah, and the dealerships are saying they're running out of inventory and
Yeah.
they don't even have anything to sell.
That's the same, RVs are the same way. I mean, what is
It's,
going
it's
on?
bad.
Motorcycles are the same way.
They're all just
They
sitting
shut
outside
everything
the
down
way.
for the Rona.
Yeah.
So
the
they're
Rona.
getting new vehicles, and they're running out of them because they're not building them.
I'm gonna have to
Factories are
call
shut
that
down.
IT guy back
Call the
after I reset this.
I just have
Uh,
to tell you that we're doing a lot of new car transactions.
While I'm getting this Elmo up, why
That's
don't you
good.
talk about this, Shane?
Well, I saw Ford
'Cause I gotta
put
reset this,
every vehicle
remote.
in their whole vehicle line on 72 months, no finance, zero financing, just come take it away. So I mean, I tell you what, I'm
That's pretty,
gonna tell you what.
0% financing
Yeah,
for 72
dollar
months.
for dollar for 5
Oh,
years,
there's two, okay.
six years.
So here's a small talking point. We finally did get something in.
Yeah, I got your pickup.
This is the new maintenance pickup. Used a bed that, we just bought a bare frame truck and used the bed they already had and fabricated it to fit this pickup. But
Nice.
You'll see that one out and about running around, so.
Do you save much getting a bare frame with no box?
It's only like $600.
Only
difference.
$600 taking the box off, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but.
Heck, the tailgate's worth $1,500.
And the tail lights
buy
are worth,
it.
yeah, the tail lights of the tailgate are worth 5 times that much.
know.
But they're not gonna give you much credit for it, are they? Yeah.
This is by far, this is the first one we got this year. We ordered quite a few in the spring, and this is the first one we've got
First year.
to hit the road. And, We still have one coming for the road department and the sheriff's units that'll still be coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I also put this together. Oh, I did want to talk about, I transferred some units. We actually brought the, administration, they had 3 vehicles. We took their Impala and gave it to the DA's office, which had totaled, they had an Impala that was totaled. So
Oh, wow.
we gave that to the DA's office, so we didn't have to buy a vehicle there. We just dropped the numbers at, admin
Yeah.
and gave them back their.
That's that
Equinox.
little white one that you sit under the
They
canopy
used to
down
sit
here?
under there, now
Yeah.
it's out in the parking lot and the Equinox sits under there. We
Good.
got the Equinox back from the assessor's office.
Gotcha.
And we've been shuffling some things around to make things work decently. Let's see. I need to replace, I have these 2, one for the health department. I basically just did a bid for a small SUV, 4-wheel drive. And I highlighted the Ford Escape right there. It's from the local dealer of Kaziz. You'll see underneath it, there's an EcoSport also. That's a much smaller vehicle. I don't think
Too
it'll
tiny? Yeah.
do quite what they need. So I did the Escape, and the Jeep Latitude was a little bit less money, but it gets way worse fuel mileage. So over the long run, it won't be hard to recoup the $500 in fuel savings.
Yeah.
By
Gotcha.
no means, but they can, I did clarify with Kaziz yesterday, and they can get 2020 Escape in,
Escape in.
so we can get it in this year's budget. So that's the yellow one you see there. I gave those to Shaq, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to put them up on the big board or not, so.
Working on it.
So, do we even need to make a recommendation here?
I don't know, these are budgeted, aren't they,
Alright.
budgeted, Shane?
I think
Yeah,
these
we-
were out of that.
That's that 300,000
that
we
we had
budgeted at
set
the beginning of the
aside.
year.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think-
had to turn it
He's
on and
just
off.
showing
like
us
We're
what the,
basically
what the
replacing an
bids are.
Escape. Yeah, we're basically replacing an Escape for an Escape.
Yeah.
We'd be replacing an Escape that has 150,000 miles on it, that's
Bless you.
Thank you.
with a brand new one, basically.
And then he's just showing the EcoSport smaller.
Yeah,
Too
I mean,
small,
I was justifying the point in getting the Escape over the EcoSport, because all I did on the bid was I bid a small SUV, and you can see you got quite the array of them.
Yeah. you
Yeah.
got a bunch of 'em.
Yeah?
And
Okay,
then also the Jeep Latitude came a little bit under the Escape, but
500.
not enough to justify the fuel mileage.
$500, and you said the mileage difference was
Yeah, you can
gonna-
see the fuel mileage there. The
Yeah.
in-town is 27 compared to 22. So at 5 miles a gallon, it doesn't take much to recoup $500 difference.
Yeah.
right.
No.
So
Yep.
I just need the okay to go ahead and go to Ford and.
Health
this.
department can't use an electric car, there needs something more
They
than
have
that.
2 electric cars
Two
already.
electric.
They're
but-
using them. I think
Yeah.
this was for the moving of their,
This is,
Dental machines
or
this is
something?
actually gonna go to, well, Melissa to do
Inspections and
inspections on septic systems
septics
and
and all
things
that.
like that, to be able to go into new constructions, and that's why she needs a 4-wheel drive. But they did actually, the health department did equal up on their numbers this month. They turned in that old Expedition that had 180,000 miles on it,
Thank you.
and a Chevy Impala with 145,000
That's
miles on it.
good.
So
you can get
they
those
went
out of here.
down two vehicles and finally replaced those with those electric cars. So they have 2 electric cars in use over there now.
Okay. It's within the budget, and I think the commissioners are in agreement. Go
Yeah.
for it. Is it?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
If you can get them, you can get them here.
Supposedly both of these I can get this year, so,
Yeah.
by December. We'll hope. And so the next one is, I kind of hit on this the last time I saw you guys, replacing Rob's pickup with a brand-new pickup and then shuffling his pickup over to the assessor's office so it can live out its life with a few less miles. Rob went and test drove this Dodge yesterday, and he really liked the Dodge. So this is from also a local dealer, True West, and I wanted to get the okay.
Is it 4-wheel drive?
It is 4-wheel drive, and it's 4-door. That was.
So it's
he
a
had-
crew cab.
Yeah, so
Good.
if you guys need to go see a road project with Rob, or if we got to go somewhere, he has enough room to
He can
carry
take
more than
himself
two
and the
people.
small crew with him, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a full four-door. I had to change that this morning. They had bid me just the crew cab, which is the real small
Yeah.
back seat.
Yeah.
And so we went ahead with the
Full four.
big
But this right here is the current.
That's the
That's-
current
okay.
four-door, yeah.
Commissioners?
I'd be okay on that too.
Feelings?
I think it's the same thing. We
Yep.
we had already talked to Rob about this.
Okay.
And then that pickup is going to the assessor's office, which
Yep.
gave them their need requirement for their four-wheel drive to get off the road.
I really
And
think-
Leslie's happy with that too,
Yeah,
so.
I talked to her and she was on board with that, so
I think
justified
they're all-
why we were giving her a used one instead of a new one.
These are all budgeted for in that.
Yeah, we're
that
still well
money,
within
so
that
it's-
300,000.
Just if you can get them. Can
Did
you
the
get
assess-
this one?
Yes.
The assessor already gave up a vehicle, did they not? One cratered on him or something, an
They-
old Dodge
They did in
Durango?
there, I shuffled over a used vehicle from the sheriff department right now, and they're using that for the one that died on them.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
when we get the new pickup, I'll shuffle that to a different department. There's been a lot of shuffling this year, but that sheet that I gave you guys at the beginning of the year with all the red on it is getting a whole lot less red. So we're making headway.
You're making headway, that's.
The
that's
only
what
thing
we
that
wanna
we're
hear.
really still in trouble in is the sheriff's department. I don't know how we'll end up doing that, because you guys approved 3 more deputies,
Yeah.
and with that, they need 3 more vehicles. So it's, the sheriff's
Well,
department's
can't
kind
they
of a hard
share
one.
vehicles? Why do you,
What's that?
They do share vehicles,
They
right?
do share vehicles, yeah.
Yeah.
so
So
then
it's
why
not
do you
like-
would have, why would you have to have 3?
That's just what, they're making do with what they've got is the Tahoes. That's just what Steve,
Yeah.
I don't get into Steve's
Well,
stuff, so.
I mean, but, so if we're already sharing, if we had 1 or 2, I mean, I don't know, we'd have to talk to the sheriff, I guess, to,
Yeah,
They,
that's-
I know some of them take them home, but maybe if, under these financial constraints that we're gonna be experiencing,
They also get
December.
some sticklers on, having to call deputies in if there's not enough vehicles. They have to have a certain amount of vehicles to man that many people, so,
For a reserve.
yeah. They have the Tahoes, but the bad thing is all the Tahoes were bought in the same year. There was 2013 Tahoes, and we have
yep.
like 12 of them. And those are all running out mileage
but I
now.
thought that they were trying to replace them with pickups anyway, is that
They're
right?
replacing them with pickups, but what they've been replacing, they gave units back, but they were like 2001 Durangos that were still in their
And then
fleet.
those Explorers.
So you're saying that they're not replacing them quickly enough?
Yeah, we're not replacing vehicles quickly enough to be able to put up with they're gonna have, those Tahoes are gonna have 160,000 miles on them within the next 2 years.
They're all coming
And
due
we're
at the same
replacing
time.
vehicles, don't get me wrong, and we're making headway, but I don't know.
Right.
They may just
the
have to
headway's
suck
gonna
it
be
up
fast
for a
enough.
year or two, too.
That's-
They may just have to run some of that stuff a little bit longer than,
And we're looking at next year's budget, I cut away a lot of vehicle purchase, but not the sheriff's.
Yeah.
Because if we
yeah, I understand.
take away the
that.
sheriff's,
I understand, but.
in bad shape, so. But yeah, if I got the approval, I'll order those 2, and they both told me they could have them here this year.
Anything
Okay.
else?
I don't think so.
Any questions, commissioners, for Shane? Thank you, Shane.
Alrighty,
I have
thank you.
none.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you, Shane.
All right, we have Mike Schnard. We have the building and grounds maintenance. Come on down
We
to
just
the
saw
Price
your
is
new
Right.
truck. Nice.
What?
We just saw your new truck.
Oh, it is, it's nice.
Yeah, why is there a dent in it already?
There's not, Mike's not driving.
Okay, I'll make it quick as I can. Annex 1, the senior center, it was textured yesterday. I'm gonna have them paint it and then bring the electricians in to finish up. And
Thanks,
then they're
Shane.
gonna redo the floor. The floor is gonna be redone and we'll be redoing the floor. The charging station, I've got that. That's what we're gonna get for the charging station for Annex 1.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta get your approval and get it ordered,
Yep.
and then we can get it
That's
installed.
when we're getting the cost share. We're still getting the cost share on that
The-
one, aren't we?
Correct, that's
Yeah.
the
This
one
was the
that
grant.
It was
started
gonna go
going
out
in
at
at
the-
Yeah,
the
and it-
fairgrounds.
Exactly,
reversed.
yeah. Get her going, man.
Okay.
Get her going.
The sheriff's department, the roof's scheduled for August 2nd, well, first and second week in August to start that project, to get that done. Annex 3,
Jerry has ordered the ice melt parts for it. As soon as he gets them in, he'll get that installed, which I take it Circle Z is going to pay for.
Have you presented that to them, or have you?
Well, they have talked to them. They said they would pay for it.
Yes, Circle Z is the one that cut it. Circle Z is
Right,
the one
so
that
they'll
needs
be
to be
paying for it.
responsible for it.
That's the parking lot?
Do I?
Yeah, behind
behind
that, yeah, it's there on
Yeah.
that north side going into the
Yep.
Annex 3, yeah.
The fairgrounds demo is going to start, they changed the date on it to October 12th. Was going to be in August, but they got stuff going on, so we're going to change that to October 12th. I've got all the bathroom fixtures ordered for that. Everything should be coming pretty soon for that. The only problem we have there is that we got a saw cut for the 3-compartment sink to put a floor drain in. So that's going to take a little bit there. We were going to partially demo the kitchen if we were going to do it next month, but since we're going to do it in October, we might have more time. We'll try to do the whole thing all at
There you
once.
go.
Get it all done at once. Okay, the wet system for the fire suppression. We got the 2 bids, one for dry system, one for wet system. The wet system was $12,173. The dry system is $17,912.
So the first question that I have for you is, when you talked to us, I don't know when it was, a couple months ago, the hydrant is not working, so they couldn't do a flow test. Is that still correct? So without a flow test, we're kind of getting the cart before the horse here.
Well, they're
Because we don't know
going
if this-
to Montezuma Water is going to replace the fire hydrant for us. It's going to cost $2,200 to do it. They will replace it, and then we can go from there.
Then we can do the flow test, then we can
Right.
see, because then this is going to have to be revised, because it's going to have to, depending on the flow, the system that's there may not work.
Well, the hydrant is down by the beef barn, right?
Right.
This is for the
I understand that it's off the same water system, so you have to know what the flow is.
Right. And I
Because
talked,
this system may not do it. And then the other one too, I actually called Cooper yesterday to ask about this, because I'm not sure why we would even think about a wet system out there. Because we're never going to maintain that 40-degree temperature in the arena.
well, they're replacing the heater.
I understand that, but then if you're going to run that constantly, I mean, how long are we going to heat? 6 months? 6 months out of the year? 5 months out of the year?
Oh, yeah, probably something.
Roughly that, yeah.
It was a dry system. Why would we want it to be a wet system? I think we're just opening ourselves up for a lot of problems with the wet system.
So it was a dry system?
Yeah.
So they don't keep the heaters on all the time?
No. How can you keep the heaters on all the time? Or
It'd be expensive, correct?
It'd be super expensive.
Yeah.
So why would you not go with the dry system? I mean, hence the term, so.
No, I do too, because we don't need to be hitting it at 3 o'clock in the morning
No,
on a Sunday.
no.
Right, but there's
So,
nobody there.
I
It's
think-
vacant, yeah.
I think what I would like to see first, Mike, is to get the water company to get that fixed as soon as possible, because right now, that hydrant you said doesn't even open, correct?
No, it doesn't open,
So
no.
we have, right now, we have no hydrant out there that's even accessible.
We have
In
no
my
fire
opinion,
protection whatsoever there.
that needs to be done immediately.
Right.
So that we at least have a hydrant there that if we did have something happening where there's water for the suppression, then we can look after the flow,
Right.
flow test, then we can see what we actually have to do to fix the system properly, and then obviously only a dry system, not wet.
Okay, that's no problem. I think that's about all I've got.
Commissioner Candelaria, if we're all in agreement that it needs to be a dry system, why do we have to even wait for the flow test to proceed?
Well, because they have to depend on the flow. What was there then may not be the same flow now.
Okay, okay.
It could be different, so the system may not accommodate what is there, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
It may have to be changed a little bit. This was just to fix what is there. Why fix what is there before we know what the flow is? And it may be fine.
Okay.
And then if it's fine, then great, we can move quickly.
But will a dry system depend upon, is it dependent upon the flow from that?
It is, because as the
Okay.
system is energized, then you have to have the flow to accommodate the system, the suppression system.
Okay, I thought a dry system, then I'm obviously in the dark about what a dry
A
system
dry
and a wet
system
system
only
are.
comes on as if a head is
ruptured or the.
Well,
got-
it can be.
It's on
Or
temperature,
heated.
it's on
It can, but
temperature.
It's on a temperature.
Mhm.
So if there's fire under it, it'll break, and
Mhm.
that link will break, and then it'll open it up. Then it becomes a wet system.
Oh, okay.
Then it has to be drained after the fact.
So it doesn't stay charged all the time? It doesn't
Dry,
charge
it's
that
filled
temp-
with compressed air. The
I
whole
gotcha.
system is filled with compressed
Right.
air.
I
And it's
gotcha.
dry to the, probably in that room where your offices are, or their offices are. That's
Right,
where the
right.
main stand comes up, that's where the compressor's
So
at.
then it becomes wet after, I got
If
you.
a
And I
head
didn't
is
understand that, so
activated.
I understand now.
See, I thought you were gonna be blowing halon
No,
or something
No, no,
instead
no,
of
no, no.
water. Okay.
It's just compressed air.
Okay.
So there's actually a compressor, and I'm assuming there's probably still a compressor there, but I don't know if it's.
It doesn't work. So they're gonna have to replace, that's why the dry system is so more
So much
expensive,
more
was they're gonna
expensive.
replace all
Right.
that to make it a dry system.
So the first thing it delivers to the hot spot is a good dose of air.
But it's quick.
Yeah. That's like a
Okay.
basketball gym at
All
the
right,
high
we
school,
will-
same
ignition.
thing. They're dry
So we're good.
systems.
But really stay on top of Montezuma Water Company, because right now, without that hydrant working,
Right.
We
they
have
can't.
nothing. We don't
yeah,
have
they
anything.
can't get water out of
You
it.
can't even hook up a fire truck to it.
No, it's
So they're
it's
doing a
dead.
shuttle
I don't know how
transfer,
long
which
it's been
is
dead, but it's
5
been dead
miles
for quite a
away.
while.
Yeah.
Well, they
I
could
like-
drop into our irrigation system down below the stock car.
What if
That's
it's
not
wintertime?
sophisticated. But it's not right now.
Correct.
But no, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
But you're
No,
right.
correct. Yeah.
absolutely.
You're right. Montezuma Water needs to get a new hydrant
Yeah.
in there and get that thing functional.
Yeah, I'll call Steve and let, I just want to get your approval on that.
Yes.
And approve on the charger station, go ahead and get that order, get it coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioners? Yeah.
I think we had approved that
Yeah.
quite a
Without-
while back,
Without a doubt.
Go for
prior
it.
to COVID.
That's
Go
all
for
I've
it.
got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
We have the County Attorney John Baxter report. Seeing
He
none.
has no report.
Next, we have Natural Resources Planning and Public
He's
Health.
on, I think he's on his way in.
Okay, let's skip over him then, and we'll go to the most important one, the County Administrator report, Shaq Powers.
The only thing I have for the commissioner this week is we did receive one letter wanting to be the alternate on the fair board. It is from Mark Wing, and it's the only letter we got. We advertised 2 weeks ago, and when the other member left, and so the one who was the alternate stepped in, and this is your letter right here.
Yeah.
Commissioners, what's your
So-
opinion?
I think it's the only application we have that we should move forward. I don't know the person, but if
I
he's
don't either.
interested, I think that would be a step in the right direction. So I would move that we approve Mark Wing as the Montezuma County alternate for the Montezuma County Fair Board.
Second.
Motion second to approve Mark Wing as the alternate for the Montezuma County Fair Board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Powers?
I texted James. He should be here shortly, so one of you could start on your report in the meantime.
I can
Which
start
one?
on mine. Obviously, you guys have seen the email that I sent to you with the property owner up by Summit Lake that stated that he definitely realizes that after looking through and consulting with his attorney that we do have access to that BLM property. And he is basically conceding with this email that says, you know, he's asking for a few
Concessions.
ideas, concessions, and that we move that parking lot so that it doesn't obstruct their visual views, which I don't see that being a big deal. And then a few others. But I think we do have access, and I believe that our attorney Baxter has also contacted Connie and/or maybe James Dietrich to let her know that we do have access into that property and that we actually are good to go so that we can start moving that process along for the equestrian and hiking, I believe is what it was slated for. And we don't have to look at that County Road M property that we had viewed in our tour a month or so ago. Had my meeting with CDPHE in regarding the Wild Wild Rest and the M&M. It actually was, started out to be a very long meeting, but we cut it short because I basically had to make him answer my question is when are you going to start the excavation? When will you be done? I finally did get an answer out of him. They will have the excavation done by the end of the year. So I did let them know that we will be holding them accountable to that. And I also noticed that the property has a for sale sign on it now, so maybe we will get some movement and some action there within the next 6 months. So it was positive for the M&M.
However, does that mean that the building would still be in place with the graffiti until?
Well, but yes, it does, because they can't do anything with the building, the structure itself. They can only mitigate the contaminated soils. But once the contaminated soils have been gone and mitigated, then you actually have something that you can either demo or sell, or you actually have something that you can do something with.
You have an unencumbered property.
Correct. You don't have a liability.
Okay.
So you're not purchasing a liability. However, the property east of town, the Wild Wild West, is going to be somewhat more difficult to deal with because that mitigation plan has been in place for several years. And basically how this ended up was the owner has denied access to anybody, therefore it becomes a trespass issue, which they cannot trespass. So it's probably going to sit there for a while longer until we can figure out how to work with that property owner to maybe make something happen. But that one's going to be a little harder. We'll keep working on it. It's just a matter of time.
Okay.
So, and really, that's had a lot of conversations with a lot of commissioners throughout the state this week on different issues of what's going on. One in Douglas County specifically, they were opting out of the Tri-County Health Department, and I'm sure Commissioner Sukla, you probably had some conversations also. But things are pretty hectic all over the state with all the other commissioners, and that's all I have.
Commissioner Tell?
I had a meeting with our AAA, Zoom meeting, and we absolutely have money we don't know what to do with. I think the AAA has been garnered through this COVID-19 Relief CARES Act fund, 400 and some odd $1,000 that's been distributed to all the entities involved in our AAA. Next year, however, is going to be a whole horse of a different color. It's going to be a tough year next year as far as our senior center may be looking to the county for some help next year, depending on how that budget goes and what the federal dollars are. But they're going to try and make as much of this carry over because it's unencumbered money and it can be carried over. So they're doing their best to keep track of it and make sure that we start out because fiscal year ended in June. We're starting out the new one, and it's going to be a little bit different next year. So that's all I have. It's the only meeting I had.
And I had a meeting last week with Public Lands at NACO, lasted 3 hours. There was a resolution that was moved forward and it had to do with the Great Outdoors Act, the $900 million for the land use, or the Land and Water Fund that put forth that if you own 50% or more public lands in your county, that money would not be spent to acquire federal lands in your county. I thought it was a good resolution.
That's nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Over 50, which would include.
The whole western slope, Mason County. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of counties not get.
And then just on a side note, I know there is a workshop tonight for mandatory masks with the city. I would request that they make the right decision. They deny that request to do mandatory masks. And I know that there's on the Thursday, there's a meeting, talk about reopening our schools. Again, to our superintendent, I hope they make the right decision and they open the schools. I tell you what, having a child without having the sports that they used to having, and I don't care what they tell you, you cannot, the learning remotely just does not work. Plus, it puts a burden on the kids that don't have internet or less fortunate as far as funding. And it's just not good mentally for our kids. They need to take them back to school. And I like what Mr. Hilton said. If you're not going to open the schools back up, and if you're not going to take our kids and teach them, give us our money back. You're our biggest funding that we, of our taxes, goes to the
School
schools.
system, you bet.
Yes, so give it
Give us our money
back
back.
because you're not doing your job. And so I hope that they're productive meetings on Thursday, and I hope that the city council does the right thing. And I hope they go back to work. I know we had a conversation about the Zoom meeting saying that, yeah, you can go to a lot more meetings. However, I tell you what, I could go to 100 meetings on Zoom without having to drive there, but what do you actually get done? I mean, a lot of these meetings, they convey, but they convene, but they don't get nothing done in the end. My public lands meeting that was with NACO, that's where we used to, we would have traveled and we would have spent 2 or 3 days. We would have got 100 times more done if it would have been in person than the way that it turned out. It was a 3-hour meeting. It used to be an all-day meeting, and I don't know.
Commissioner Sukla, a successful meeting is defined when you can state the reasons that you can't make a decision and then schedule the next meeting.
All right.
I actually have one more thing because of
There is
that.
a disconnect.
I actually was at the Dolores Town Council meeting also. That same conversation came up, the mask, mandatory mask, in the town of Dolores. They did have a discussion, and at that point in time last night, they decided to not make anything more restrictive than the state, so they left it at that. So there is no mandatory mask in Dolores as of last night. So,
Okay.
sorry.
Mr. Dietrich, you're up. We have James Dietrich, which is the Natural Resource Planning and Public Lands.
Good morning, James.
Good morning. I read all these for the
Do you want to start with RICO or Painted Hand?
Let's start with the RICO, I think, here.
Okay, which one did you get the last? Who was it?
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've got before you gentlemen this morning is the EA comments for the RICO Trails project. Basically, there were 2 changes from the scoping package that we originally saw. One was the Ryman Creek Trail seasonal closure, where they're intending to close the trail to mountain bikes for about a month and a half. And the reason is to increase elk production. As you can see where I've indicated a couple studies that show that motorized and mechanized recreational use may not have the impact that
Maybe
a lot of people
less
have been
disturbing
saying.
than the silent travelers. Yeah, which you come upon them and scare them. They don't hear you coming, and you startle them more than they can hear a motorized vehicle coming. They know things are coming, and I think there's some truth to some of that, James. I think those studies show that. So.
Yeah, so statistically, anyway, that's what those studies are showing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've given a reference so the Forest Service can check into that on their own. So that's the first thing, and we've taken a stand that really that seasonal closure for a month and a half is not going to make any difference for the elk production there at all, and is probably an unreasonable action that favors one user group over another. The second part is the Spring Creek modified alternative, and under that, they're saying that they would keep the existing trail use open and as it's currently designated, and that creates a new loop option, but basically nothing really changes on that. So we felt we were pretty comfortable with that.
Pretty good
one.
on that.
Any discussion, commissioners, on this proposed letter to send to the BLM?
No, I'm okay with the letter. I've read it, so.
I'm good with it as well. I would like to move that the Board of Montezuma County Commissioners send our RICO Trails project letter to Derek Padilla, District Ranger, the Dolores Ranger District.
Second.
Motion is second to send the drafted letter as is to Derek Padilla on the proposed RICO Trails project. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you have one you want us to sign, or any of these?
Yes, that one up there should be suitable for signatures.
Okay, proceed with the next one, James.
Okay, and painted hand scoping comments is the next one I have. And so this is one where I've done some conceptual sketches to provide to the BLM on some of the improvements that they could put into this painted hand Pueblo site. One of the things that they wanted was suitable all-weather surface parking and the ability to get large vehicles in there, such as tour buses. So I did a layout with a sawtooth design, which allows large tour buses, as well as like rigs like horse trailers, to be able to pull in. They don't have to turn around, they don't have to back. They can pull in and then pull right back into the flow of traffic. And there's a cul-de-sac at the end so that they can turn around.
Back that letter down just a little bit, Shaq. There's one I found that's about, hold it. Where was that? I saw an S, the county has submitted conceptual drawing. Concepts. I think in that, that paragraph that's up from the bottom says visitor readiness is a key concepts.
Oh, I put an S in there.
Take that S off of that. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I can sure do that.
Just a key concept.
So anyway, the sketches kind of show, basically what we're talking about in there, trying to use the disturbed areas as much as possible, reclaim some of the areas that maybe can consolidate some of the visitor use in there, shade structures, signage, things of that nature. The typical kind of stuff you see at a BLM or a national park type of a setting when they upgrade it. So this has already been presented to the BLM. I presented that a couple months ago, and last time I brought that to the commissioners, wanted to show you that and make sure that it was suitable for a county comment also.
Yeah.
So as long as the commissioners agree to all that, then I'm just asking for a signature to.
Yeah, this clears up a private land, private property problem, and it's going to make something down there. I just hope they take some steps to keep it from being vandalized. And when you open access this much to an archaeological site, there are chances of getting some of that vandalized. I keep watching these places. People love to spray paint their names on rocks, and I stopped at that spring down there on the Dolores River, and these idiots are up there spray painting stuff on the sandstone. I mean, people, I just hope they can protect that from being vandalized by some yo-yo with a can of spray paint, which.
Yeah, that's certainly always a danger, the more you open it up.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, commissioners?
No. So I'd move that we send a letter to the BLM Tres Rios field office, Connie Clements, and field manager on the painted hand scoping comments.
Second.
Motion is second to send the above letter on the painted hand scoping comments to the BLM Tres Rios field office, Connie Clemson. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen.
Anything else?
Thank you, James.
I thought I'd give you, I think, Jim, you kind of gave the update on the meeting with OPS the other day. So since that time, I went out there and took a look at the site. They have done the line locates on the ground, so that tells me that they are ready to move forward with the boring next week. I believe they're scheduled for that. They're going to put some more monitoring wells in, and I believe, as I understood it, some of those wells will stay in place for about a year after they get this reclamation work done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, that looks pretty good. I did try to contact both the realtor as well as the owners just to talk a little bit about that building. I haven't been able to reach either one of them, so I'll continue to try to put phone calls into them. The owner lives down in Texas, and I don't know what's the deal. Maybe we'll find a good number for them, but the last two I've called have not been active. So,
One other thing to follow up on that too, and you can, I guess, follow up with Leslie, but July 15th is now tax day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was where it was extended to, so find out whether or not, if they're gonna pay those taxes, and then, if not, then they progress to the tax sale, I guess, still, I don't know, in November, but unless they extend that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that sheriff's sale is.
But
on
if they
those
don't,
delinquent
pay those taxes and they haven't been paid for the 3 years, then it goes into a different
right.
type of a situation.
Okay, I'll talk to Ellen Black about that, and we'll see if we can get some information. Also want to let the commissioners know I've been working on doing historic right-of-way mapping. I've had some information that's come in from Casey McClellan and Mr. Dennis Atwater. And so this kind of relates back to some of the road mapping that we were talking about earlier today. The BLM, of course, would like to request a meeting with the Board of County Commissioners in a kind of a workshop type setting to go over some of these roads. And I think
coordination meeting, maybe?
Yes, a coordination
meeting.
meeting.
Thank you,
Yes,
James.
yes. And so, and so we can take a look at some of the historic right-of-ways that I've been mapping, in addition to some of the roads that we've already got on the map. And I'm sure there'll be some good discussion related to both of those.
I'd like to see us get some more of those open back up.
Yeah, some of those I think
that's gonna
maybe
be-
it was a shame ever got closed.
Yeah,
and,
it does.
So do you think that it could go there, or do you think it's just a dead point? I mean,
Well, hard to say, but I think, some of those, I mean, if we find a road that we think really makes a lot of sense to keep open and it's shutting down access to public lands, things of that nature, that's probably something we can fight pretty hard about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their point is they want to maintain access to public lands. So, I mean, I'll give you a road that comes to mind that I think we probably do need to take a pretty hard look at, is that road that goes up Cannonball. Because that crosses about maybe even more than a mile of private land before it gets up onto the mesa. And BLM doesn't have an easement for that.
through there, yeah.
So, I mean, we essentially could be in the same situation we're in down Road 41. There's other examples out there like that.
Sure.
So. But that's a pretty important access. I mean, that's the only access really from the south side.
And I think with us helping the BLM get access to their equestrian and hiking deal up there on Summit Ridge, accessing that land, they need to come to the table with us for some help, some things that we'd like to see done and opened back up. It's a give and take world out there, and from what I've seen, we've done more of the giving than BLM has, and I think it's time now to do some asking and say, hey, we're going to make this feasible for you up here. Let's see where you can help us with reopening up some stuff, maybe.
Sure, that's how good partnerships work.
Yeah, you dang right. That's how you coordinate.
On the note of the summit, the BLM is requesting from the county, they would like to have a title commitment, and they would like us to go out there and have the right-of-way staked, or the easement staked, I should say. So, I've ran this by John.
They want us to build the parking lot too?
That's
the next question.
Basically 60 feet away from that last pin that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could certainly ask Ernie to go out there and stake that right away. I mean, we can do that. The title commitment, I'm a little, that's not my area of expertise.
I didn't know there was a title commitment on. John would have to have that, and it just comes with the piece of property that easement goes through. So
which I think we already have that when we explained that.
I think so too.
Okay.
When we looked at that document, when it showed that actual easement there.
Okay. Well, and again, I've already brought this to John's attention, so I'll continue to work this through with John. So I think, right now, I mean, we could decide whether or not we want to send Ernie out there to mark that easement. Or we suggest that the BLM, when they're using their own cadastral surveyor, to maybe mark it themselves.
And yes, and tell them I would like to see when and where their funding is going to come to build this parking lot. They've been after us they've been working on this for a couple of years, so I assume they have some of their budgeted monies ready to go in and build this parking lot. And before, I think, at least from this commissioner's standpoint, before I pursue a whole lot more with doing stuff up there to get things staked and measured and all that, I want to see the BLM's commitment as to how and when they're going to have that parking lot built now that there's access there.
Okay.
Before I step any further.
Yeah, I'll let the commissioners know that I've been pushing pretty hard on both of these because I was aware that there's some recovery funds that are supposed to be coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
The America Great Outdoors, and so it sounds like the BLM may stand to receive some of those funding, and both of these projects are ones I had in mind to get us in a position where we could get that out for some of our local contractors.
And I guess that's what I'm going to say is that to get Ernie out there right now to set 2 pins off of that property line is not going to take very long. No. And then we can actually say, okay, we've done everything that we can possibly do. Now it's up to you. Instead of, I mean, and I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying to make a move quicker, we've now completed everything. We've proven the right of way is there. We've surveyed it for you. Now you got to do it
to work.
So I would think that we should go ahead and have them set the, or 4 pins, whatever that right of way is. It can't be very much. It's only a couple hundred feet.
No, that easement's only 60,
60 feet by a couple hundred
feet.
feet.
Yeah, it can't be much, so.
Well, I can contact Ernie if the commissioners would like me to do that.
Yeah, ask him if how much that'll cost us for him to go up there and do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll
yeah.
start.
Yeah,
I'll
start
take that
there.
approach.
Ask Ernie what it'll charge us to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay, I think that's it for my report for today, unless there's anything else from the commissioners.
Any questions, commissioners?
I have none. If you want to bring us a clean page with the correction, we'll sign it.
You got it.
Okay?
All right, I'll be right back.
I had this is just kind of for discussion, and I'm sorry I can't remember. Oh, it was Keenan Lovett, the attorney, had called, and we were talking about some different things in regard to the subdivision,
Sky
chip,
Mesa.
chip sealing, and the other one,
The water district up by Jackson.
No, it
No, he's
wasn't.
not involved in that one.
No, it was, but anyway, his question was, he wanted to know if the county had any appetite for selling some of our water shares that we own. It was the MVI water shares, the 20 that we own out there. If we had ever looked down the road far enough to see if that 20 shares was more than we could ever use out there, or if we had any appetite for selling like 5 shares of that water out there, so.
Well, I don't think we should sell I mean,
But
we're leasing
we're
it right
leasing
now.
that. What do
Leasing
we
that.
have, 20 shares?
20 shares.
We're just leasing them right now?
Mhm. And hopefully down the road, we're gonna have plans to put in a pump station and stuff down there on that siphon and put in, a pretty good network of, ag water up there to take care of some green spaces at our fairgrounds and to do more tree watering and stuff like that. I just don't know that we'll ever be able to justify using 20 shares or not. I mean, 20 shares is a fair amount of water.
I don't
but,
think we'd ever use 20 shares out there
but-
in a piped system.
Right.
Now, if it was an open system,
Open
that's totally
system,
different,
but I don't think.
Our plan is to
We'll
not
we'll never
waste
get
it.
an open system out there because we gotta
No.
come from that siphon way down there on the west
We
end of the
would-
property, and it's gotta come uphill all the way.
But you can transfer shares, so just.
Oh, yeah. No,
Just
I'm-
because, I mean,
Yeah, we can transfer them, we can lease them, we
and
can
I-
sell them.
there is shares for sale.
Oh, yeah, there are, and I'm of the mind, if you've got them, and I'm sure the county's had those shares for a long, long, long time, and I wouldn't see any reason for the county to ever sell those shares. I mean,
You want me to stir the pot a little, or should I let it go?
why don't you stir up the pot a little bit, Sean?
You could always voluntarily mitigate those shares.
Voluntarily mitigate those
Yeah, for
shares.
demand management.
Oh, God. Dude. Why don't you call it, God, would you throw something in? Do you have a peanut or anything in your hand? Throw it in. Is it compensated, voluntary compensated?
And temporary.
Yeah, and temporary, yeah. Well,
We could always lease them, though.
Oh, yeah.
We
No, I-
lease them right now, right?
and we're doing
We
that
do.
right now,
We
exactly.
lease our 20 shares because we can't use them for the road?
I think that they're an asset that's only gonna grow in value.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
They'll never
and,
decrease.
like I said, you can transfer them. So say that we need some kind of a takeout, something changes in water law.
Or even with our road department, if there was a way we could put them in a canal or a reservoir or something out that would help our road department through MVI, if we ever get MVI off this nut that we can't suck out of their canals or any of those other things, they may come in handy one day for our road department negotiating water in places where they need to do watering of roads or whatever, blading roads
I
and
think
stuff.
holding on to them right now would probably be the
Yeah,
best.
I think it is too. So
benefit
I just told
for
him
us.
I'd bring it up to you guys and would discuss it, but I'm of your ilk as well. I don't see any reason for us to sell any of those shares. There's no reason.
And
for
they
it.
are available every
Oh, yeah,
year.
there are other shares available, yeah.
I've just got one more topic to bring up, and just a matter of housekeeping more than anything. On the original schedule that we had put out for the BOCC meetings for the year, next week was canceled because we were going to be at NACO. So I'll just assume that we can tell the public there will be a meeting next week.
If you have, we don't need to have a meeting just to have a meeting, just because of what you had said earlier. But if you have some stuff that needs to be taken care of.
Well, so what we were originally going to do was just skip the public safety week, which is the sheriff and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
It's up to you. You want to have a meeting, meet. You don't.
Because
Since we're not doing what we had already planned, and I'd say go ahead and have a meeting.
Yeah, I would too. Let's just keep our normal schedule
Keep
and
our schedule as
keep
much as we
knocking
can,
things out
yeah.
as much as
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah,
It just
Okay.
keeps us
Roger
ahead of the
that.
game instead of behind the game.
that's right.
Maybe
Roger
a
that.
short meeting, but we keep saying that every week.
Yeah.
And
And things seem to happen.
Hey, I've seen other local governments go 2 or 3 months without having a meeting, so.
Just saying, huh, Shaq?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Anything else, commissioners?
I have none.
How about a
I
recommendation?
move we
for-
adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.